Good evening, dear companions. As twilight descends, we shall embark upon a tranquil and unhurried expedition through the venerable annals of Greek mythology and the secluded chronicles of legendary history. I invite you to lower your illumination, find solace beneath your chosen coverlet, and permit the clamor of the day to dissipate into the ether. At the very occidental periphery of the terrestrial sphere, where the celestial orb of the sun makes its daily descent to touch the earth, there flourishes an unparalleled arboreal wonder. One might visualize it standing in solitary grandeur upon a crest, its boughs laden with fruits that shimmer with the brilliance of captured solar essence. Yet, this magnificent tree does not stand in isolation. Encircling its sturdy trunk, as imperturbable as ancient stone, reposes Ladon, a formidable dragon whose 100 vigilant eyes never succumb to slumber, whose very respiration has marked the relentless progression of countless centuries. It is imperative to understand that Ladon is not the ferocious, avaricious hoarder of treasures depicted in subsequent narratives. Rather, he embodies a quieter, more enduring presence. His scales possess a subdued bronze luminescence, polished to a silky smoothness by an untold number of years, subjected to the relentless embrace of wind and weather. Each of his 100 ocular orbs blinks with independent autonomy, orchestrating a gentle, mesmerizing tableau, akin to constellations materializing and vanishing in a languid ballet across the nocturnal heavens. Some of these eyes maintain a vigilant watch over the distant horizon. Others scrutinize the resplendent golden fruit suspended above, while still others appear to gaze inward, as if absorbed in contemplation of profundities too intricate for mortal comprehension. This hallowed tree, which Ladon meticulously guards, is the cherished possession of Hera, the venerable queen of the Olympian deities, and its golden apples are purported to bestow eternal life upon those fortunate enough to partake of them. However, one will not observe Ladon restlessly pacing or unleashing torrents of fiery breath upon potential trespassers. Instead, he has assimilated into a rhythm as primordial as the earth itself. His colossal physique gently ascends and descends with each measured breath, a sound reminiscent of distant oceanic surges. When the zephyr rustles through the verdant foliage above, he occasionally elevates his head ever so slightly, as if heeding the hushed confidences of an ancient confidant. What profound reflections occupy the mind of a dragon during the protracted, silent expanses of eternity? Perhaps he recollects the auspicious day when Hera first escorted him to this sacred locale. How she addressed him, not as a mere subordinate, but as a revered custodian of an invaluable treasure. The golden apples transcended mere fruit. They epitomized hope itself. They represented the solemn promise that certain elements within this ephemeral world possessed the capacity to endure perpetually. And Ladon, in his infinite wisdom, comprehended that his intrinsic role was not to be formidable or terrifying, but rather to be perpetually present, steadfast, and unyielding. The verdant expanse surrounding the tree is meticulously nurtured by the Hesperides, the enchanting evening nymphs, whose melodic voices harmoniously intertwine with the rhythmic cadence of Ladon's breathing, collectively weaving a timeless lullaby that has reverberated throughout this sacred precinct since the dawn of time. They traverse the garden with the graceful fluidity of dancers, diligently irrigating the roots, meticulously pruning the branches, and assiduously gathering the fallen leaves. On occasion, They pause to tenderly caress Ladon's warm metallic scales, eliciting a contented rumble from the dragon, a sound akin to the distant reverberation of thunder on a balmy summer evening. One might ponder whether Ladon ever experiences solitude during his interminable vigil. However, the sensation of loneliness necessitates a perception of time's relentless march. And for Ladon, time unfolds with a distinct rhythm. Each day seamlessly merges into the next, much like water seeking its natural equilibrium. The sun ascends, casting elongated golden shafts of light through the apple-laden branches. It climbs to its zenith, suffusing his bronze scales with warmth until they become almost incandescent to the touch. Subsequently, it descends, painting the firmament in a palette of rose and amber hues that perfectly mirror the luminous fruit he safeguards. And throughout this perpetual cycle, Ladon maintains his watchful gaze with patient eyes, his unwavering presence as dependable as the immutable changing of the seasons. The resplendent golden apples themselves appear to emanate their own subtle, pulsating radiance, particularly in the quiescent hours preceding the dawn. Should one be afforded the privilege of observing them at close proximity, it would become apparent that they are not perfectly spherical like commonplace fruit. Instead, they exhibit a slight elongation, their unblemished skin devoid of any imperfections, any telltale signs of age or senescence. When stirred by the gentle breath of the wind, they produce a soft, melodious chime as they lightly brush against one another, a sound reminiscent of distant, ethereal bells. Ladon has been privy to this celestial music for such an extensive duration that it has seamlessly integrated itself into the very rhythm of his heartbeat, into the very cadence of his breathing, and even into the profound tapestry of his dreams. Indeed, even dragons are susceptible to the nocturnal embrace of dreams. In his slumber, Ladon occasionally experiences prophetic visions of heroes who will inevitably arrive in pursuit of these coveted apples, not the violent brigands depicted in certain tales, but rather individuals propelled by profound affection, by desperate exigency, by the intrinsically human imperative to cling to that which holds paramount significance. He discerns their visages long before their arrival, recognizes their approaching footsteps upon the ancient pathway that leads to his sacred garden. And although his fundamental obligation is to safeguard the apples, he experiences a nascent sense of compassion for these earnest seekers, comprehending their innate yearning for permanence in a world where all things are destined to evanesce. Of these illustrious visitors, the most renowned was Heracles, the prodigious hero whose formidable might was paralleled only by the profound disquietude of his spirit. When Heracles finally arrived at the hallowed garden, his form dusted from the arduousness of his protracted odyssey, Ladon evinced no surprise. He had, in fact, been anticipating this momentous occasion for myriad years. The hero advanced with deliberate slowness, not with the characteristic swagger one might anticipate, but rather with the meticulous reverence of an individual who deeply comprehends the sanctity of consecrated locales. Heracles did not engage Ladon in combat, notwithstanding the assertions of certain historical accounts. Instead, he reclined beneath the venerable tree for 3 days and 3 nights, engaging in hushed discourse with the dragon concerning his arduous labors, his profound regrets, and his fervent aspiration that by successfully executing these seemingly insurmountable tasks, he might ultimately attain a measure of inner tranquility. Ladon listened intently with his 100 perceptive eyes, and within those eyes, Heracles discerned not the unthinking voracity of a savage beast, but rather the profound weariness of an immortal soul burdened by an eternal obligation. On the third night, as the moon ascended to its celestial apex, Ladon performed an unprecedented act. He simultaneously closed all 100 of his eyes and succumbed to a profound, absolute slumber, thereby permitting Heracles to acquire the apples he so desperately required. This was not an act of capitulation or deceit. It was rather an act of mutual recognition, one venerable guardian acknowledging the profound commitment of another, one eternal duty honoring another. As Heracles departed, he gently rested his hand upon Ladon's colossal head, a gesture of profound gratitude that the dragon cherishes to this very day. However, those events transpired in the distant past. Heracles successfully completed his arduous labors and ultimately discovered his coveted peace. The resplendent golden apples were subsequently reinstated to their rightful place upon their tree, and Ladon unreservedly resumed his eternal vigil. The world beyond the confines of the garden underwent transformations, both subtle and profound. Empires ascended and then crumbled into dust. Novel deities garnered fervent adherents, while ancient ones gradually receded into faint whispers, and mortals ingeniously devised innovative methodologies to quantify time, distance, and intrinsic worth. None of these external vicissitudes impinge upon the serene garden where Ladon meticulously maintains his unwavering watch. Here, the immutable rhythm persists. The nascent light of dawn filters through the shimmering golden leaves, the gentle, melodious singing of the Hesperides as they diligently tend to their eternal garden, the hushed whisper of the wind as it courses through the immortal branches, and perpetually the steady, rhythmic respiration of the dragon who presides over this sacred domain. His 100 eyes perpetually reflect the mutable light. His unwavering presence serves as a profound testament that certain entities endure not through brute force or cunning artifice, but through the simple, profound choice to remain steadfastly devoted to that which holds ultimate significance. Should one be afforded the extraordinary opportunity to visit Ladon today, one would discover him precisely as he has always been, perpetually coiled around the base of the golden tree, his scales radiating warmth from the sun's embrace, his eyes observing the world with an ancient, patient sagacity. He might elevate his colossal head ever so slightly as one approaches, not as a menacing gesture, but as an implicit salutation, recognizing within the visitor yet another soul, earnestly seeking something enduring amidst a world defined by ceaseless flux. And if one were to maintain an absolute quietude, an utter stillness, one might discern within his rhythmic breathing the resonant echo of all narratives yet to be unveiled, all the quiet guardians who vigilantly protect those precious elements that we simply cannot bear to relinquish. What other steadfast observers might we unearth within the tranquil recesses of ancient Greece? What other souls discovered profound meaning not in audacious adventures, but rather in the unwavering rhythms of daily devotion? Long before legendary heroes such as Heracles traversed the earth, preceding the erection of magnificent temples upon elevated hilltops and the gleaming radiance of marble columns beneath the Mediterranean sun, the nascent Greeks made a groundbreaking discovery that would irrevocably alter the course of human civilization. They ascertained how to compel the earth to yield its hidden treasures, not through the arduous processes of mining or hunting, but through the patient, collaborative partnership between diligent human hands and dormant seeds. This, then, is the compelling narrative of those often overlooked pioneers, the inaugural farmers who ingeniously transmuted wild grasses into golden, life-sustaining wheat, who transformed disparate nomadic tribes into cohesive, settled communities, and who ultimately instilled in humanity an enduring trust in the promise of tomorrow's bounteous harvest. Envision the pristine landscape of ancient Greece as it existed 8 millennia ago. Undulating hills blanketed in a verdant tapestry of wild herbs that suffused the air with their intoxicating perfume with every gentle breeze. Expansive oak groves where acorns descended with the density of rainfall each autumn. Verdant meadows interspersed with wild barley and wheat, thriving wherever the wind had indiscriminately dispersed the seeds of their progenitors. The indigenous inhabitants of this land were then nomadic, meticulously tracking migratory game animals through the cyclical progression of the seasons, assiduously gathering wild berries and nuts, and perpetually living at the capricious mercy of nature's unpredictable whims. However, within a secluded valley situated not far from what would eventually burgeon into the illustrious city of Athens, a sagacious woman, whose name has regrettably been lost to the annals of time, made a profound observation that irrevocably altered everything. She meticulously noted that wherever their nomadic tribe had established temporary encampments and subsequently departed, leaving behind the remnants of their communal meals, scattered grains, fruit seeds, and discarded vegetable scraps, new, vigorous plants invariably sprouted forth in the ensuing season. This phenomenon was not attributable to sorcery, although it must have initially appeared profoundly magical. It was, in essence, the Earth's inherent responsiveness to human collaboration, marking the nascent genesis of agriculture's ancient dialogue between deliberate intention and fervent hope. Her appellation might have been Melissa, a designation signifying bee in the venerable ancient Greek tongue, for she was intrinsically drawn to the assiduous labor of meticulous gathering and systematic storage, much like her industrious insect namesake. Each succeeding morning, she would embark upon a purposeful perambulation through the locales where her people had previously established encampments in preceding years, diligently scrutinizing the unsolicited plants that flourished there. She cultivated the astute ability to discern the robust stalks that yielded the most abundant grain, the tenacious vines that bore the sweetest, most succulent fruit, and the resilient roots that meticulously stored the greatest quantity of sustenance throughout the austere months of winter. Melissa's groundbreaking discovery was neither dramatic nor instantaneously revealed. There was no singular moment of profound, lightning-strike inspiration, no divine, unequivocal revelation. Instead, it materialized through myriad small-scale observations, quiet, meticulous experiments, and an unwavering, patient vigilance. She commenced deliberately scattering seeds in specific locations where she harbored the earnest hope of eventually returning. She painstakingly cleared modest patches of ground, assiduously removing intrusive weeds and obstructive stones to afford her chosen plants ample space to flourish. She acquired the profound wisdom to interpret the subtle indicators that signaled when the soil was optimally prepared for planting, when nascent seedlings required vital hydration, and when the grain had reached its peak ripeness, ready for the crucial harvest. The other members of her tribe observed her innovative experiments with a fascinating blend of intrigued observation and profound doubt. They questioned the rationale behind devoting such considerable effort to nurturing vegetation in a fixed location when the untamed environment already offered all necessary sustenance without human intervention. They pondered why one would stay anchored to a single valley, when true liberty was synonymous with tracking migratory animal populations wherever they might roam. Melissa, however, possessed a foresight, an insight into a future her kin had not yet comprehended. She envisioned an era of unprecedented plenty, of steadfast stability, and of burgeoning settlements capable of sustaining populations far exceeding the limits imposed by a subsistence economy reliant on foraging and hunting. Her inaugural significant achievement came with emmer wheat, a primeval cereal crop indigenous to the entire geographical expanse. In stark contrast to contemporary wheat varieties, which boast robust, readily extractable grains, emmer proved itself a formidable and unyielding species. Its kernels adhered tenaciously within their protective glooms, necessitating meticulous preparation and laborious milling before rendering them suitable for consumption. Nonetheless, its resilience was remarkable, demonstrating a formidable capacity to flourish even in impoverished earth and under unpredictable climatic conditions. Melissa assiduously deciphered its growth patterns, ascertaining its predilection for elevated, well-draining slopes and a precise sowing schedule in the autumnal months. Through diligent selection, she meticulously preserved the most superior seeds from every yield, progressively cultivating more robust and bountiful lineages over time. The demanding labor proved far more arduous than anyone had previously conceived. The formidable undertaking of land clearance entailed interminable periods of toil, utilizing rudimentary implements. This involved the laborious extraction of tree stumps, the arduous displacement of heavy boulders, and the strenuous fracturing of compacted soil. The act of sowing demanded scrupulous observation of meteorological phenomena, a profound understanding of edaphic characteristics, and an exquisitely precise synchronization that held the very balance between a copious yield and utter crop failure. The eradication of weeds constituted a perpetual, daily chore throughout the cultivation period, a deliberate and systematic endeavor aimed at safeguarding the desired flora while systematically eliminating rival vegetation. And the season of reaping presented its own unique array of formidable obstacles, including the manual severance of grain stalks, the arduous process of threshing to dislodge the kernels from their protective coverings, and the final meticulous act of winnowing to purify the harvest by separating grain from discarded husks and extraneous material. But the ensuing recompense, when eventually realized, proved to be nothing short of phenomenal. In an unprecedented turn of events within recorded human experience, Melissa's community possessed an abundance of foodstuffs, a quantity far exceeding their immediate consumption needs for an entire annual cycle. They ingeniously mastered the technique of preserving grain within hermetically sealed ceramic vessels, thereby safeguarding it against the deleterious effects of dampness and the depredations of vermin. Furthermore, they ascertained that specific provisions could be desiccated, fermented, or otherwise conserved through innovative methodologies, thereby prolonging their utility considerably beyond the traditional cultivation period. The frigid months of winter, historically a period synonymous with severe privation and pervasive apprehension, thus transformed into simply another segment of the year, to be traversed with satiated stomachs and tranquil dispositions. As news of these groundbreaking achievements disseminated widely, neighboring communities commenced their own exploratory ventures into agricultural practices. Every distinct collective ingeniously tailored the foundational tenets of cultivation to harmonize with their specific ecological surroundings and inherent requirements. Along littoral zones, for instance, inhabitants cultivated resilient vegetable varieties uniquely suited to flourish in arenaceous ground and saline atmospheric conditions. Within elevated, rugged territories, they engineered intricate terraced fields, ingeniously harnessing the potential of precipitous gradients and the intermittent bounty of seasonal precipitation. Adjacent to fluvial arteries and flowing waterways, they constructed sophisticated irrigation networks, thereby conveying vital moisture to tracts of land previously deemed infertile and barren. The societal transformations precipitated by the adoption of agriculture proved to be every bit as momentous and far-reaching as the concurrent technological advancements. With the cessation of incessant migratory patterns dictated by the pursuit of sustenance, populations were able to dedicate substantial periods and considerable effort towards the construction of enduring habitations. Sturdy homes supplanted ephemeral encampments, evolving into the very nuclei of domestic existence and serving as secure storehouses for progressively amassed belongings. Hamlet and village settlements burgeoned adjacent to the most fertile agricultural lands, fostering the emergence of societal units sufficiently populous to sustain a diverse array of specialized artisans and skilled laborers. This included potters dedicated to crafting essential storage containers, smiths proficient in forging superior plows and harvesting tools, and weavers adept at fabricating garments from various botanical fibers. Descendants emerging within these nascent agrarian societies cultivated a profoundly altered perception of temporality and spatiality compared to their peripatetic forebears. They assimilated the deliberate and cyclical cadences inherent in a life dedicated to cultivation. This encompassed the serene, quiescent interlude of winter, when seeds lay quiescent beneath frigid earth, the exhilarating anticipation of spring sowing, the vigilant, often apprehensive observation throughout summer as burgeoning crops progressed towards ripeness, and the profoundly satisfying, albeit wearying, exertions of the harvest season. They thus acquired what could accurately be termed agrarian sagacity, an intrinsic and comprehensive understanding of climatic variations, diverse pedological compositions, prevalent phytopathologies, and the myriad other intricate variables that collectively dictate the prosperity or collapse of agricultural endeavors. Concurrently, spiritual observances underwent a significant metamorphosis in tandem with the progression of agricultural development. In their fervent quest to comprehend and exert some sway over the enigmatic powers presiding over their cultivated produce, humanity commenced perceiving the sacred within the recurring annual cycles, consequently devising elaborate ceremonial rites designed to guarantee auspicious meteorological conditions, fecund earth, and prodigious yields. Demeter, revered as the patroness of cereals and cultivation, ascended to a preeminent position among the divinities of the Hellenic pantheon, embodying not solely the munificence of the terrestrial sphere, but also the hallowed symbiosis between human endeavor and the inexorable dictates of the natural world. The implements utilized by these pioneering agriculturalists, while rudimentary in design, proved remarkably efficacious. Ponderous wooden plows, harnessed to the formidable strength of oxen, fractured and turned the earth with significantly greater efficacy than could be achieved through manual implements alone. Gleaming bronze sickles facilitated a swifter and more comprehensive collection of the harvest. Durable ceramic containers offered inviolable repositories for precious seeds and harvested grain. Robust stone querns meticulously milled grain into flour, which could then be transformed into bread, thereby yielding a foodstuff that was conveniently transportable, highly nourishing, and possessed an extended shelf life. Every one of these ingenious breakthroughs encapsulated centuries of iterative trial, error, and meticulous improvement. As cultivators progressively engineered superior methodologies for interacting with the terrestrial environment. Yet, arguably the most indispensable attribute cultivated by these nascent cultivators was the very virtue of patience, in stark contrast to the pursuit of game, which could yield instantaneous outcomes for those possessing requisite skill and fortuitous circumstances. Agriculture inherently demanded an unwavering conviction in the eventual recompense of deferred rewards. Seeds meticulously sown in the verdant embrace of spring might not yield their bounty until the crisp arrival of autumn. Newly established fruit-bearing arboreal specimens could remain barren for a span of several years subsequent to their initial planting. Enhancements to the Earth's fertility might require multiple decades to manifest their complete and transformative impact. Such a profound orientation towards long-term foresight profoundly altered not merely the methods by which human populations sustained themselves, but fundamentally reshaped their conceptualization of their own position within the cosmic order. By the epoch when the illustrious Hellenic civilization attained its zenith, the progeny of these pioneering agrarian practitioners had engineered a sophisticated farming infrastructure capable of sustaining populations numbering in the millions. They had meticulously devised sophisticated crop rotation methodologies designed to preserve and enhance edaphic vitality, implemented rigorous selective breeding initiatives aimed at ameliorating both botanical and zoological species, and established extensive mercantile conduits, facilitating the widespread dissemination of excess foodstuffs throughout the entirety of the Mediterranean basin. Nevertheless, the bedrock upon which this entire edifice rested remained the painstaking observations and diligent experimental endeavors of individuals akin to Melissa, pioneers who perceived latent promise within untamed flora, who demonstrated a profound willingness to dedicate their precious time and vital energy to ventures with indeterminate prospects, and who held an unwavering conviction that the terrestrial realm would, in due course, reciprocate their diligent stewardship with an outpouring of plenty. Even in the contemporary era, characterized by highly automated agricultural processes and advanced scientific horticultural engineering, the fundamental symbiotic connection between the cultivator and the earth endures without alteration. An individual must invariably remain vigilant concerning meteorological conditions, meticulously nurture the soil, and render innumerable minute judgments that collectively dictate the prosperity or demise of the cultivated yield. The lineal inheritors of those inaugural Hellenic agriculturalists persist in their labors across agricultural landscapes globally, perpetuating an uninterrupted legacy of collaborative stewardship with the planet. A tradition that commenced when a perceptive woman identified as Melissa first discerned the profound potential for bounteous harvests within seemingly dispersed seeds. Beyond the revolutionary shifts in food production, what other subtle yet transformative breakthroughs profoundly influenced the quotidian existence of the ancient Hellenes? What skilled craftspeople and dedicated artisans, through their unwavering commitment and meticulous efforts, meticulously constructed the very bedrock of civilization. Under the imposing silhouette of Acrocorinth, precisely where the initial rays of dawn illuminate the bustling workshops arrayed along the venerable urban thoroughfares. A master craftsman named Nicias commences his daily regimen, mirroring the practices of his paternal lineage and his ancestors before them. The venerable pottery wheel revolves rhythmically beneath his expertly trained hands, as pliable hydrated clay ascends gracefully, destined to assume forms that will transport precious vintages across the vast expanse of the Mediterranean Sea, contain consecrated olive oil for the illumination of temple sanctuaries, and safeguard essential grain provisions throughout the duration of yet another winter. However, Nicias, engrossed in his craft, does not dwell upon the intricacies of mercantile routes or the demands of commerce. Instead, he attends intently to the very essence of the clay, discerning through tactile sensation the precise instant when it is perfectly amenable to assuming its inherent, destined configuration. Corinthian ceramic artistry enjoys widespread renown across the entirety of the ancient world, lauded not for monumental scale or imposing magnificence, but rather for its impeccable symmetry, its exquisitely intricate painted ornamentation, and its remarkable ability to distill and embody the very quintessence of Hellenic existence. Every singular artifact commences its journey with raw clay meticulously extracted from particular elevated terrains surrounding the city. Material imbued by countless centuries of Mediterranean precipitation and solar irradiance. The master potters possess an encyclopedic knowledge of every distinct geological deposit. They are capable of precisely identifying which specific hillside yields clay that, upon firing, attains a rich, warm terracotta hue, and which particular valley furnishes the exceedingly fine, pliable substance ideally suited for intricate pictorial embellishments. The demanding labor commences in the pre-dawn hours, when the atmospheric conditions are characterized by a refreshing coolness and profound tranquility. Nicias, alongside his diligent apprentices, undertakes the crucial preparation of the raw clay, meticulously manipulating it with a kneading motion, akin to that used for bread dough, thereby expelling any trapped air pockets that harbor the potential to induce fissures or fractures during the subsequent firing process. This essential preliminary procedure, known as wedging, necessitates both unflagging perseverance and considerable physical exertion. The ceramic medium must be assiduously manipulated until it achieves an impeccable homogeneity, rendering it exquisitely receptive to the potter's subtle manipulations, neither excessively pliable nor unduly rigid. An accomplished master potter possesses the innate ability to discern the clay's optimal readiness purely through its tactile characteristics within his hands, the precise manner in which it acquiesces to applied pressure, and the faint, emergent warmth that arises during its thorough working. Seated before the spinning wheel, Nicias transcends mere craftsmanship, entering a profound state akin to meditative absorption. His lower limbs deftly operate the pedal mechanism, maintaining the rotation of the ponderous stone disc, while his skillful hands meticulously coax the pliant clay skyward, molding it into archetypal configurations. These shapes include the elegant amphora destined for vintages, the expansive craters for communal beverage mixing at convivial symposiums, modest cups for quotidian utility, and ornate ceremonial receptacles for sacred religious observances. Every individual silhouette has undergone an exhaustive process of refinement spanning countless generations, with its proportions meticulously calibrated and recalibrated, until they embody that quintessential equilibrium between aesthetic grace and practical utility, a hallmark of authentic Hellenic artistry. The act of throwing, when executed by a virtuoso, conveys an illusion of effortless spontaneity. Yet its proper mastery demands an apprenticeship spanning numerous years. An excess of applied force inevitably results in the inward collapse of the delicate walls, whereas insufficient pressure leaves them unrefined, thick, and unwieldy. The profound secret lies in acutely interpreting the clay's inherent reactions, comprehending its intrinsic inclination for movement, and harmonizing with its natural characteristics rather than contending against them. Frequently, Nicias performs his intricate work with his eyes closed, depending solely upon his highly developed tactile sense to direct the clay towards its predetermined shape. Upon the successful completion of the fundamental form, the true artistic embellishment commences. While the ceramic material retains a slight degree of moisture, yet possesses sufficient rigidity for manipulation, the decorative painters assume control, these individuals being highly specialized experts in their distinct field. These individuals are truly masters in their respective fields. Artisans who have devoted countless decades to perfecting the depiction of elaborate scenes encompassing epic sagas, mythical tales, the rhythms of daily existence, intense athletic contests, and solemn religious rites, meticulously apply their craft. They employ delicate brushes fashioned from fine animal hair, utilizing a refined liquid clay known as slip. This medium has been painstakingly prepared to achieve a fluidity that allows for effortless application while steadfastly resisting any tendency to bleed or run, ensuring crisp lines and vibrant areas of color in their complex compositions. The precise methodologies employed in painting these intricate narratives rival the exacting standards of any other specialized skill. The initial step involves the delicate sketching of an outline, rendered with a slender brush that barely graces the surface of the unfired clay. Subsequently, the primary chromatic elements are meticulously filled in, typically featuring striking black figures starkly contrasted against the inherent red-orange hue of the hardened clay. In later periods, this technique evolved to showcase vibrant red figures set against a deep, lustrous black background. The painters are compelled to work with both speed and absolute accuracy, as any miscalculation or error proves incredibly challenging to rectify without compromising the integrity of the piece. Each stroke of the brush must therefore exude unwavering confidence and certainty, contributing irrevocably to designs destined to be permanently etched by the intense heat of the kiln. The firing of the pottery in the kiln represents perhaps the most nerve-wracking and critical phase in the entire arduous process. All the preceding weeks of painstaking labor, which include the careful preparation of the raw clay, the skilled shaping of diverse vessels, the intricate application of decorative motifs, and the patient waiting for each piece to dry to the optimal consistency, culminate in the 3 continuous days and nights during which the pottery reposes within specially constructed chambers. These chambers are subjected to intense heat generated by fires that demand an exceptionally precise and unwavering temperature regulation. Should the temperature climb excessively high, the delicate pieces risk warping or developing irreparable cracks. Conversely, if the heat proves insufficient, the pottery will fail to achieve the rich, deep colors and the hard, resilient finish that are the hallmarks distinguishing Corinthian pottery as highly coveted and exceptionally valuable works of art. Nicias, through years of dedicated practice and acute observation, has cultivated an extraordinary ability to interpret the behavior of the fire, much as an experienced farmer instinctively discerns the forthcoming weather patterns. The nuanced variations in the color of the flames provide him with crucial intelligence regarding the internal temperature of the kiln. The distinctive sounds emanating from the burning wood offer vital clues about the residual moisture content within the fuel source. Furthermore, the subtle aroma of the smoke serves as an olfactory indicator, revealing whether the combustion is proceeding cleanly and efficiently, or if critical adjustments are necessary to maintain optimal conditions. His commitment during these firing days is absolute, allowing him only brief intervals of sleep as he diligently inspects the kilns every few hours, replenishing the wood, fine-tuning the airflow, and implementing the myriad of minor, yet crucial corrections that ultimately determine the precarious balance between resounding success and unfortunate failure. The pottery workshop itself embodies an atmosphere of profound, quiet concentration, occasionally punctuated by sudden, intense bursts of focused activity. During the periods dedicated to throwing, all attention converges solely upon the spinning wheels, the only discernible sounds being the soft, rhythmic whir of the clay as it transforms and the gentle splash of water, consistently applied to keep both the artisan's hands and the malleable clay suitably moist. As the phase shifts to painting, the ambient air within the workshop becomes even more profoundly hushed, as each artist immerses themselves in the intricate task of creating elaborate scenes, knowing that these artistic endeavors might captivate and be admired by generations for many centuries to come. However, during the critical firing stage, the entire workshop pulses with a palpable, nervous energy as every individual anxiously awaits the outcome, eager to discover whether their collective efforts and individual masterpieces have successfully endured the formidable ordeal of the flame. When the kilns finally reach a sufficiently cool state, signaling the opportune moment for their unloading, an inherent blend of eager anticipation and a degree of apprehension invariably pervades the atmosphere. Some of the meticulously crafted pieces emerge precisely as envisioned, their colors radiating with brilliant intensity, their forms impeccably perfect, and their intricate decorations remarkably crisp and unequivocally clear. Others, however, reveal the subtle, nuanced variations that are an intrinsic byproduct of natural firing processes. These might include slight, unique differences in color, distinctive patterns that develop within the glaze, or even small, charming imperfections that paradoxically imbue each individual piece with a heightened sense of individuality and irreplaceable preciousness. Occasionally, and despite the most rigorous precautions undertaken, there are unavoidable losses. Pieces that succumbed to the immense thermal stress, resulting in cracks. Decorations that regrettably failed to fire correctly, losing their intended vibrancy, or forms that warped beyond any practical or aesthetic use. Nevertheless, the experience of failure is recognized as an indispensable component of the learning continuum within any skilled craft, and the art of pottery, above all other virtues, instills a profound sense of patience. Nicias has judiciously learned to embrace both triumphant successes and unavoidable setbacks as invaluable instructors. He meticulously scrutinizes each outcome, endeavoring to comprehend the precise factors that contributed to either a positive or negative result, constantly seeking ways in which established techniques might be refined and how the enigmatic alchemy involving raw clay, intense fire, and honed human skill could be more thoroughly mastered. He purposefully retains broken fragments, not as disheartening reminders of past failures, but rather as tangible textbooks, examining them with diligent scrutiny to gain a deeper understanding of how clay behaves and reacts under a diverse range of conditions and stresses. Once completed, the exquisite pottery departs the confines of the workshop, embarking upon its true existence in the wider world. Elegant wine amphorae journey aboard bustling merchant ships, serving not merely as containers for precious vintages, but also as conduits for the transmission of news, local gossip, and profound cultural influences to distant, far-flung ports. Revered ceremonial vessels assume their rightful places within sacred temples, meticulously holding offerings dedicated to the revered deities and actively participating in ancient rituals that intrinsically bind communities to their deeply rooted spiritual traditions. Everyday utility pottery, designed for practical use, fills countless homes throughout the vast Mediterranean region, elevating mundane activities such as eating and drinking into more aesthetically pleasing experiences, thereby forging a deeper connection to the rich artistic traditions that fundamentally define Greek civilization. However, for Nicias and his dedicated cohort of fellow potters, the most significant and discerning audience remains local. The immediate neighbors who frequent the workshop to acquire essential oil lamps for their dwellings, sturdy water jugs for their communal wells, and elegant cups for their dining tables. These local patrons possess an intimate familiarity with pottery, enabling them to keenly appreciate the subtle yet significant distinctions that unequivocally separate superior craftsmanship from merely adequate production. They inherently understand that a meticulously crafted pot will provide loyal and reliable service for many decades, that aesthetically pleasing decorations render daily chores more agreeable, and that providing support to local craftspeople actively contributes to the preservation and perpetuation of the cherished traditions that render their community singularly unique and culturally rich. As the day gradually wanes and evening draws near, and the final potter's wheel ceases its rhythmic rotation, Nicias undertakes the meticulous cleaning of his tools with the identical precision and care he applies to the shaping of raw clay itself. Each individual implement possesses its own distinct purpose, its specific method of proper maintenance, and its indispensable role within the intricate, multifaceted process that orchestrates the profound transformation of simple earth into enduring art. Tomorrow he will once again commence his labor with fresh clay, confronting new creative challenges and embracing renewed opportunities to engage in the timeless dialogue between the boundless expanse of human ingenuity and the fundamental, elemental materials provided by nature. What other skilled artisans across the breadth of the ancient world discovered profound meaning and enduring purpose in this patient and meticulous transformation of raw, natural materials into objects possessing both remarkable beauty and indispensable utility. Just as the master potters of Corinth painstakingly molded clay into elegant vessels that served as conduits for the spread of civilization across the vast expanse of the seas, so too did the skilled shipwrights of Athens meticulously shape timber into the very vessels themselves. Within the expansive naval yards of Piraeus, a bustling hub where the resonant sound of hammering reverberates from the first light of dawn until the fading twilight, Alexandros, a seasoned shipwright, carefully glides his hands along a substantial piece of well-cured oak. His touch is not merely tactile. He is feeling for the inherent grain, which will intuitively inform him of the timber's optimal application and how it desires to be utilized in the ship's construction. Certain select pieces are earmarked for keels, destined to become the formidable backbone of majestic ships that will transport both intrepid merchants and valiant warriors across the legendary wine-dark sea. Other carefully chosen timbers will be expertly fashioned into ribs, providing the vessels with their fundamental form and indispensable structural integrity. Still more will be intricately carved into the graceful, sweeping curves of prows, designed to cleave through the oncoming waves with an elegant fluidity reminiscent of dolphins effortlessly gliding through the ocean. The comprehensive shipbuilding process initiates its complex journey not within the bustling confines of the harbors themselves, but rather deep within the ancient forests where towering trees are meticulously selected and felled. This critical initial stage is meticulously guided by a profound, inherited knowledge, carefully passed down through countless generations of shipwrights. Robust oak is chosen for its unparalleled strength and durability, while lighter pine is favored for its inherent buoyancy and ease of working. Cedar, renowned for its natural resistance to decay and the destructive incursions of insects, is also selectively utilized. Each distinct type of wood possesses its specific, optimal application, its ideal period for seasoning, and its own unique set of challenges and inherent advantages that must be carefully considered by the master builder. Alexandros, early in his rigorous apprenticeship, rapidly assimilated the profound understanding that comprehending the intricate nature of wood is remarkably akin to discerning the complex character of individual people. Each distinct piece of timber, he learned, possesses its own unique temperament, its particular manner of responding to various forms of stress and pressure, and its own inherent preferences regarding the most effective and harmonious methods by which it desires to be worked and shaped. The arduous process of seasoning timber stands as perhaps the most demanding and patience-testing facet of the entire shipbuilding endeavor. Freshly felled wood, brimming with an excessive amount of moisture, is utterly unsuitable for immediate use in construction. It must be painstakingly stacked in carefully arranged formations, ensuring ample spaces for consistent air circulation and diligently protected from the direct onslaught of heavy rain, yet not entirely shielded from all natural weather elements. This crucial drying period extends over many months, and often even several years, allowing the wood to gradually shed its moisture content. Unseasoned or green, wood, if prematurely utilized, carries a significant risk of warping or cracking catastrophically as it dries, thereby nullifying months of meticulous preparatory work. However, timber that has been properly and thoroughly seasoned achieves a state of remarkable stability and predictability, becoming perfectly primed and ready to assume its vital role in robust constructions that are engineered to steadfastly endure the relentless, constant stresses imposed by powerful winds and surging waves. The sophisticated design of ships represents an intricate balancing act between a multitude of often competing demands, a challenge that would rigorously test the capabilities of even the most accomplished engineer. These vessels must be inherently strong enough to triumphantly withstand the fury of violent storms, yet simultaneously possess a sufficient lightness to enable efficient and graceful movement through the water. They are required to be capacious enough to transport a substantial and economically viable cargo, yet simultaneously compact enough to be deftly maneuvered within the often constrained confines of tight harbors. Furthermore, they must exhibit an impeccable watertight integrity to effectively repel the ingress of the sea, yet retain an essential degree of flexibility, allowing them to gently bend and adapt with the dynamic motion of the waves without succumbing to structural failure. Each individual design decision reverberates throughout the entire blueprint, influencing all other considerations and thereby creating complex, multi-layered puzzles that master shipwrights meticulously resolve through a synthesis of extensive practical experience, honed intuitive judgment, and diligent, scrupulous observation of what has proven consistently effective. Alexandros has cultivated a specialized expertise in the construction of merchant vessels, which are widely recognized as the indefatigable workhorses of Mediterranean trade. These robust ships are responsible for the vital transport of an incredibly diverse array of goods, ranging from essential grains to fine wines, delicate pottery, and rich olive oil, facilitating commerce between numerous distant ports across the sea. While these utilitarian vessels may lack the dramatic flair and imposing presence of warships, with their formidable bronze rams and multiple banks of oars, they nonetheless embody something of equally profound significance: the enduring and patient commercial relationships that intrinsically bind the diverse communities of the Greek world together. A meticulously constructed merchant ship possesses the potential to serve faithfully for many decades, undertaking hundreds of voyages and transporting thousands of tons of crucial cargo, thereby underpinning the livelihoods of countless traders, seasoned sailors, and indeed, everyone whose economic well-being is inextricably linked to the vibrant sphere of seaborne commerce. The methodical construction process adheres to ancient rhythms, patterns as old as the very art of shipbuilding itself. The foundational step involves the meticulous laying of the keel, a singular, massive timber that is destined to form the ship's fundamental backbone and structural core. This indispensable piece must be impeccably straight, expertly cut from the largest and finest available tree, and rigorously seasoned for several years until it achieves an unparalleled state of stability and immense strength. The keel-laying ceremony is a significant event, invariably attended by the ship's future owner, who often makes solemn offerings to Poseidon, the god of the sea, accompanied by fervent prayers for safe and prosperous voyages. Once the keel is firmly set in place, the essential character and fundamental dimensions of the ship are irrevocably established. Frame by painstakingly crafted frame, the skeletal structure of the nascent ship gradually takes its definitive shape. Each individual rib must be meticulously shaped with extraordinary precision to create the specific curves that will ultimately dictate the vessel's hydrodynamic performance and how it gracefully navigates through the water. If the hull is designed with too sharp an angle, it will undoubtedly cut through waves with efficiency, but will consequently be able to carry only a limited amount of cargo. Conversely, if the design is too blunt, the ship will possess superior stability, but will inevitably be slower in its transit. The master shipwright makes these critical design decisions based upon a profound understanding of the ship's intended purpose, the specific preferences and requirements articulated by its owner, and a wealth of experience accumulated over years of assiduously observing how various hull shapes perform under a diverse array of maritime conditions. The performance of maritime vessels, shaped by meticulous design and construction, varies greatly under diverse conditions. The process of planking demands the most refined craftsmanship, as each individual board must be precisely integrated with its counterparts, thereby forming a hull that offers both exceptional structural integrity and impenetrable watertightness. These timber planks are secured using resilient bronze nails and sturdy wooden dowels, subsequently sealed with a protective blend of tar and oakum, a fibrous material derived from aged ropes that possesses the unique property of expanding when moistened. This ingenious sealing method ensures that the joints progressively tighten when submerged in water. Such ancient engineering is remarkably efficient. Well-constructed wooden ships, with diligent upkeep, can maintain their watertight condition for many decades. Within the ship's interior, considerable thought is dedicated to the efficient handling of cargo and the comfort of the crew. Merchant vessels necessitate capacious, unimpeded holds where commodities can be stored securely and retrieved with ease. They require sophisticated freshwater storage systems designed to prevent contamination throughout protracted voyages. Furthermore, provisions must be made for comfortable sleeping quarters for the crew, safe cooking facilities engineered to avert onboard fires, and ample stowage for the provisions and essential equipment required for weeks or even months at sea. Every minute detail must be scrupulously planned, for any errors or deficiencies discovered after the vessel's launch prove to be exceptionally costly and arduous to rectify. The ceremonial launching of a newly built ship is invariably an occasion for widespread celebration, yet it simultaneously marks a period of palpable apprehension for all individuals deeply invested in its creation. The cumulative effect of countless months of painstaking labor, all the strategic choices concerning raw materials and intricate construction methodologies, and the collective hopes and aspirations vested in the undertaking, converge at the precise instant the vessel first makes contact with the water. Will it achieve the correct buoyancy and settle at the anticipated draft? Will its handling characteristics prove satisfactory? Will it ultimately validate the substantial investment of both time and resources? While the vast majority of ships indeed perform precisely as anticipated, there are invariably minor unforeseen developments, slight adjustments that become necessary, and invaluable lessons gleaned for subsequent construction projects. Once a ship has been successfully launched, its true operational life commences. However, Alexandros's involvement with the vessel does not conclude at this stage. Wooden ships inherently demand continuous and diligent maintenance. Their hulls necessitate periodic cleaning to remove marine growth and subsequent resealing to preserve their integrity. The complex network of rigging inevitably requires replacement over time. Furthermore, the unforgiving forces of storms frequently inflict damage that must be meticulously repaired. These ships regularly return to the very shipyards where they were brought into being, bringing with them fascinating accounts of distant ports, tangible evidence of the efficacy of the original construction techniques, and practical suggestions for enhancements in future vessels. These returning ships are akin to adult children revisiting their parents, bearing news of the wider world, yet forever linked to their foundational origins. The shipyard itself functions as a distinct community, nestled within the broader urban fabric of Piraeus. Master shipwrights labor in close proximity to skilled sailmakers, diligent rope manufacturers, expert bronzesmiths who fashion essential nails and fittings, and talented carvers who create the elaborate decorative figures that adorn the ship's prows. Each of these specialized crafts intrinsically supports the others, collectively forging an intricate network of specialized proficiencies that underpins and enables the entire maritime economy. Young men coming of age in this vibrant environment not only acquire mastery of their specific trades, but also gain a comprehensive understanding of all facets of ship construction and ongoing maintenance. The profound economic significance of shipping bestows upon shipwrights a considerable degree of respect and elevated status within Athenian society. Their exceptional skills are absolutely indispensable to the city's overall prosperity and continued flourishing. Their remarkable work is conspicuously visible in every bustling harbor, and their masterful craftsmanship is rigorously tested each time their vessels bravely confront the formidable challenges posed by wind and wave. Yet, like all genuinely dedicated artisans, their deepest personal satisfaction stems not from external accolades or public recognition, but rather from the inherent gratification of the work itself. In the satisfying tactile sensation of perfectly interlocking joints, the captivating sight of elegant curves progressively materializing beneath their practiced hands, and the profound assurance that their magnificent creations will safely transport both people and precious goods across treacherous waters. As the day's light wanes and evening draws near, signaling the gradual cessation of daily labor, Alexandros undertakes a contemplative stroll through the shipyard, diligently inspecting various projects at their differing stages of completion. In one area, a foundational keel has just been expertly laid for a vessel whose construction will span many months. Elsewhere, a ship is nearing its final stages, awaiting only its protective coating of tar and the intricate installation of its rigging. Each individual vessel embodies hundreds of strategic decisions, thousands of precise cuts and meticulous fittings, and countless hours of patient, dedicated labor. However, they also symbolize something far more profound: vital conduits connecting distant geographical locations, expansive opportunities for vibrant trade and enriching cultural exchange, and the enduring human imperative to explore and embark on grand adventures that has perpetually drawn civilizations to the vast expanse of the sea. What other craftspeople contributed their patient skills to the infrastructure that supported Greek civilization? High upon the majestic slopes of Mount Parnassus, where formidable eagles soar majestically and the very air becomes perceptibly thinner, the persistent sound of chisel impacting stone has reverberated through the ages. Yet, these are not the grand, dramatic sounds typically associated with sculptors painstakingly crafting magnificent masterpieces or architects meticulously raising imposing temples. Rather, these are the patient, methodical, rhythmic taps of dedicated stonecutters, diligently preparing the massive foundation blocks, the sturdy wall stones, and the innumerable pieces of precisely cut masonry that collectively enable the construction of the celebrated architectural marvels for which ancient Greece remains globally renowned. Demetrios, with a practiced motion, wipes the accumulating sweat from his brow, his gaze intently fixed upon the substantial block he has been meticulously shaping since the first light of dawn. He carefully verifies its dimensions, comparing them against the reliable wooden template that habitually hangs from his belt. The revered oracle at Delphi consistently attracts devoted pilgrims from every corner of the known world. However, remarkably few of these visitors pause to contemplate the very stones beneath their feet as they ascend the sacred pathway toward Apollo's magnificent temple. Each and every block was meticulously carved by hand, painstakingly shaped to integrate flawlessly with its adjacent counterparts, and finished to exacting tolerances measured in mere fractions of inches. This demanding work undeniably requires considerable physical strength, but, more significantly, it demands extraordinary patience, unwavering precision, and an intimate, almost intuitive understanding of the stone itself. How it inherently fractures, how it endures the relentless forces of weathering, and how distinct geological types respond uniquely to various tools and specialized techniques. Demetrios acquired his profound craft from his respected uncle, who, in turn, had been taught by his own grandfather, thus forming an unbroken lineage of specialized knowledge extending back to the earliest Greeks, who first recognized that local limestone could be effectively quarried and expertly shaped into durable building blocks. The fundamental techniques have remained remarkably consistent across the generations. The essential tools are still the familiar bronze chisels and robust iron hammers, along with wooden wedges and ingenious rope hoists. However, the nuanced understanding of stone, the subtle, almost imperceptible judgments concerning its grain and inherent hardness, and the detection of invisible flaws that can either ensure the success or lead to the catastrophic failure of a block. This invaluable knowledge deepens and refines with each successive year of hands-on experience. The intricate quarrying process commences with an astute interpretation of the existing stone formation, requiring an understanding of how the rock layers were deposited in ancient seas, where natural fracture lines meander, and which specific geological zones will yield the most superior building material. Demetrios possesses the remarkable ability to traverse a quarry and accurately identify locations where the stone will be ideally suited for intricate carving, areas where it is only appropriate for coarser, rougher work, and places where concealed imperfections render it entirely unsuitable for any structural construction. This profound expertise is a direct result of handling thousands upon thousands of blocks, meticulously observing their behavior under various stresses, and mastering the recognition of subtle indicators that reliably predict either success or potential failure. Extracting the massive blocks from the unyielding living rock necessitates techniques that often appear almost mystical to those outside the specialized trade. Holes are meticulously drilled in precise patterns along the predetermined lines where the stone is intended to break. Subsequently, wooden wedges are carefully inserted into these holes and thoroughly saturated with water. As the wood slowly expands due to the absorption of water, it generates an immense controlled pressure that systematically splits the stone along predictable and desired paths. This process is inherently slow but unfailingly reliable, consistently yielding clean breaks with minimal material waste. Any attempt to rush the work or to extract blocks with excessive haste typically results in undesirable fractures that irrevocably damage valuable material. Once extracted from the quarry, each individual block must be meticulously shaped to its final, precise dimensions, utilizing hand tools that have undergone very little fundamental change since the Bronze Age. The initial rough shaping is accomplished with heavy, forceful hammers and broad chisels, which serve to remove large, superfluous pieces and establish the stone's fundamental form. Following this, the painstaking work commences with smaller, more delicate tools, gradually refining the surfaces, scrupulously checking all dimensions, and carefully testing the fit with adjacent blocks. The ultimate finishing stage can often demand several days of patient, concentrated effort, involving the removal of all lingering tool marks, the creation of perfectly smooth and uniform surfaces, and the achievement of such exceptional precision that allows the blocks to fit together seamlessly without the need for mortar. Diverse architectural projects inherently necessitate varied approaches to stonework. Foundation blocks, for instance, demand paramount strength above all other considerations. They must be capable of bearing enormous loads without exhibiting any signs of cracking or settling. These crucial pieces are frequently left unrefined on sides that will not be visible, with all attention exclusively focused on ensuring that the load-bearing surfaces are impeccably flat and true. Wall blocks, conversely, require meticulous attention to their outer faces, which will be prominently displayed in the completed edifice, though their inner surfaces can be finished with slightly less precision. Column drums, however, demand the most exacting and precise work of all, given that even the slightest irregularities will become noticeably magnified as the column progressively ascends. The logistical challenge of transporting finished blocks from the quarry to the construction site presents its own unique set of difficulties. Some of these colossal blocks can weigh several tons and must be painstakingly moved over rugged mountain paths, using ingenious techniques that rely more on sheer patience and clever ingenuity than on brute physical power. Simple wooden rollers, sophisticated rope systems, and meticulously coordinated efforts among teams of skilled workers collectively enable these massive stones to be safely conveyed over distances that, at first glance, appear utterly impossible. The work is undeniably perilous. A single slipping block possesses the crushing force to gravely injure or kill anyone in its path. But experienced crews develop an innate rhythm and an intricate communication system that effectively minimizes these inherent risks. At the bustling construction site, the stonecutters collaborate closely with the master builders, performing final, minute adjustments to guarantee an absolutely perfect fit. Even with the most scrupulous measuring and precise templating, minor modifications are frequently required. A particular block might need to be trimmed ever so slightly to accommodate subtle variations in the block's position beneath it, or certain surfaces might necessitate additional smoothing to ensure optimal contact. This crucial on-site fitting demands all the honed skills of quarry work, compounded by the additional complexity of working harmoniously alongside other specialized trades. Carpenters meticulously installing roof structures, sculptors artfully carving decorative elements, and painters diligently preparing surfaces for their artistic embellishments. The arduous process of stone cutting ultimately involves the meticulous preparation of surfaces, which are then readied for intricate decoration. The implements utilized by the stonecutter, though seemingly straightforward, are remarkably efficacious, with each instrument meticulously conceived for particular phases of the monumental task. Robust sledgehammers are employed for initial, brutal fragmentation. Hammers of intermediate weight facilitate broader contouring, while diminutive hammers are reserved for the most intricate and refined detailing. Chisels, varying in their blade widths, address diverse incising requirements. Wooden wedges prove indispensable for cleaving substantial blocks, and an assortment of bronze and iron tools caters to distinct methods of severance. For establishing geometric exactitude, an array of precise measuring apparatus is essential, comprising rulers, squares, plumb lines, and levels. It is paramount that every single tool receives diligent upkeep, ensuring its keen edge and sound condition, as any blunted or compromised implement renders exacting craftsmanship utterly unattainable. The corporeal exertions inherent in the practice of stone cutting are truly immense. This demanding profession necessitates exceptional physical power, enduring stamina, and an unwavering capacity for concentration. Even when confronted with overwhelming exhaustion, scorching temperatures, biting cold, and the ceaseless clamor of striking hammers against obdurate rock. Demetrios, a master of this ancient trade, bears the indelible marks of his vocation. His hands are perpetually marred by countless minor lacerations and fragments, his spine permanently stooped from long years spent laboring over colossal stone blocks, and his auditory senses have been irrevocably compromised by decades of incessant tool cacophony. Yet, he is also endowed with an invaluable, immeasurable quality, an innate, profound comprehension of the stone itself, an extraordinary aptitude to envision within unhewn quarry blocks the magnificent, completed architectural forms they are destined to embody. Arguably, the most extraordinary characteristic distinguishing ancient stonework is its unparalleled endurance. Edifices meticulously fashioned by skilled artisans, such as the venerable Demetrios, have triumphantly withstood the ravages of millennia, persisting far beyond the demise of the very civilizations that brought them into being. These monumental structures continue to stand resolutely, bearing silent witness to the ebb and flow of empires around them. This profound longevity is by no means a fortuitous occurrence. Rather, it emerges directly from an unwavering and scrupulous dedication to every minute particularity throughout the entire construction methodology. Spanning the entire spectrum from the judicious selection of raw materials to the exquisite precision of their severance, and encompassing the intricate techniques employed for the seamless interlocking of individual blocks. The dedicated stonecutters of Delphi extend their expertise far beyond the construction of revered temples and grand public edifices. Their diligent efforts are equally directed towards the creation of the essential, pragmatic infrastructure indispensable for the sanctuary's operational efficacy. This includes robust retaining walls designed to arrest the erosion of mountainside soil, sophisticated drainage systems meticulously engineered to divert torrential rainwater safely away from vital structures, carefully crafted steps and pathways facilitating safe passage for pilgrims traversing the precipitous terrain, secure storage buildings for sacred offerings and necessary provisions, and suitable living quarters for the resident priests and diligent workers. Indeed, the entirety of this extensive construction enterprise demands an equivalent degree of meticulous scrutiny concerning both the chosen materials and the applied methodologies, mirroring the exacting standards observed in the erection of the celebrated temples. This holds true, despite the fact that a substantial portion of these foundational works often escapes the notice of unobservant onlookers. The inherent seasonal cadences governing construction endeavors dictate that stonecutters frequently enjoy several months during each winter period to engage in alternative pursuits. A segment of these skilled laborers embarks on journeys to disparate construction locations, traversing the Mediterranean basin in pursuit of ongoing building seasons. Another faction dedicates this interlude to the demanding tasks of quarrying and amassing substantial reserves of raw materials, prudently preparing for the subsequent year's undertakings. Yet others judiciously allocate this time to the vital instruction of apprentices, thereby transmitting the invaluable corpus of knowledge and practical proficiencies essential for the enduring perpetuation of their venerable craft. These tranquil periods, marked by a lull in active building, hold a significance equal to that of the bustling construction season itself. They afford crucial opportunities for the meticulous upkeep of implements, for strategic logistical planning, and for a profound process of contemplative introspection that invariably fosters advancements and refinements in established methodologies. The profound religious import of Delphi bestows an additional elevated dimension upon the endeavors of the stonecutters. These artisans possess a deep comprehension that their skilled craft serves a purpose far transcending ordinary structural fabrication. They are, in essence, fashioning hallowed spaces where mortals can forge a connection with the celestial realm, where the pronouncements of the revered oracle will reverberate through countless generations, and where devout pilgrims will discover profound spiritual enlightenment and revitalization. This inherent sacred objective imbues even the most mundane and repetitive assignments with profound significance, transforming the painstaking labor of shaping and meticulously joining stone into what feels akin to a devotional act, a tangible oblation presented to the deities who safeguard this sanctified locale. As Demetrios concludes his daily toil and commences the meticulous cleansing of his implements, his gaze ascends towards the nascent temple majestically rising above him. Every single block comprising those formidable walls has, at some point, traversed hands akin to his own, undergone meticulous shaping by instruments identical to those he wields, and been precisely interlocked into its designated position through the assiduous application of proficiencies cultivated and refined across numerous generations. On the morrow, he will embark upon the fabrication of yet another block, and then another, thereby contributing his indispensable segment to an architectural undertaking destined to endure for many centuries beyond his own mortal existence. In what other venerable vocations did diligent artisans discover profound significance within labor, destined to far surpass the lifespan of its originators? Within the profound pre-dawn gloom of ancient Athens, as the vast majority of the populace yet slumbers, Thalia meticulously ignites the flames within the capacious stone oven of her bustling bakery. The foundational endeavor of nourishing an entire community commences many hours prior to any consideration of the morning meal, unfolding during those hushed moments when skilled bakers transmute elemental components such as flour, water, salt, and the enigmatic potency of wild yeast into the very bread that fundamentally upholds existence itself. Her skilled hands execute their tasks with the unwavering assurance born of 3 decades of dedicated practice, meticulously constructing the fiery core that will imbue the oven's substantial stone walls with intense heat. She is diligently preparing for yet another day of that venerable alchemy, the transformative process that converts raw grain into essential sustenance. The bakery itself is strategically situated at the confluence of 2 vibrant thoroughfares, ideally placed to cater to the quotidian requirements of the local community. Throughout the daylight hours, the establishment will invariably teem with a bustling clientele, animated discussions, and the jovial disarray characteristic of commercial activity. Nevertheless, in these nascent hours of dawn, the space is exclusively Thalia's, governed by the serene, measured cadences of her specialized craft. She carefully inspects the bread dough that has undergone its fermentation overnight, assessing its optimal readiness with a delicate, knowing touch. This tactile examination conveys to her every vital detail regarding precise timing, ambient temperature, and the enigmatic vital essence that underpins the very possibility of bread. The fundamental genesis of bread production lies in a profound comprehension of the grain itself, specifically the wheat, barley, and an assortment of other cereals that agriculturalists, much like the pioneering Greek cultivators of antiquity, mastered the art of growing millennia in the past. Distinct varieties of grain yield disparate palettes of flavor and textural qualities, and adept bakers possess the expertise to judiciously blend them in order to achieve particular culinary outcomes. Flour derived from wheat invariably yields the delicate, ethereal loaves frequently favored for momentous celebrations and festive gatherings. In contrast, barley, when milled into flour, results in a more compact and profoundly nourishing bread, one that effectively satiates hunger and bestows enduring vitality. Furthermore, composite grain breads present an intricate tapestry of flavors and offer the pragmatic benefit of utilizing whichever cereals are procurable at equitable costs. The laborious process of pulverizing grain into flour represents an intrinsic connection, linking each individual loaf of bread directly to the grand agricultural cycle that originates in remote farmlands. Thalia assiduously cultivates associations with numerous proximate milling establishments, recognizing with astute discernment that the inherent excellence of the flour unequivocally dictates the ultimate standard of the completed baked product. With an almost innate expertise, she can discern through tactile examination and olfactory assessment whether flour possesses optimal freshness, has been milled to the correct consistency, and remains entirely unblemished by the surreptitious adulterations that unethical purveyors occasionally introduce to inflate their pecuniary gains. Flour of superior quality presents a smooth and subtly warm sensation to the touch, emits a fragrant and unpolluted aroma, and invariably yields a dough that is both manageable and predictable in its behavior, ultimately baking into bread endowed with exceptional flavor and a desirable texture. Water, acknowledged as the second indispensable component, could superficially appear to be a straightforward element. However, experienced bakers are keenly aware that diverse aquatic origins invariably engender distinct outcomes. The specific mineral composition, thermal characteristics, and inherent purity of the water collectively exert a profound influence upon the rheological properties of the dough, the vigorous proliferation of the yeast, and ultimately, the nuanced gustatory profile of the baked bread. Thalia procures her water from a singular, renowned source celebrated for its unvarying excellence, and she has, through years of dedicated practice, mastered the art of adapting her methodologies to accommodate the climatic fluctuations in both temperature and mineral concentration. During the frigid winter months, the use of colder water necessitates a more protracted mixing duration to ensure the optimal development of the gluten network. Conversely, in the sweltering summer period, she occasionally incorporates ice into the mixture to preclude the dough from attaining an excessively elevated temperature throughout the kneading process. Salt fulfills a multiplicity of functions within the intricate process of bread fabrication. Transcending its role as a mere flavoring agent, it significantly fortifies the gluten architecture, thereby assisting the dough in maintaining its structural integrity throughout the crucial phases of fermentation and subsequent baking. Furthermore, it judiciously moderates the metabolic vigor of the yeast, effectively preventing the bread from undergoing an overly rapid ascent and consequently developing an undesirable texture. Moreover, salt operates as an inherent preserving compound, thereby prolonging the product's viable shelf life. The precise quantity of this ingredient demands scrupulous regulation. An insufficient inclusion will render the bread insipid and structurally deficient. Conversely, an excessive amount will impede yeast efficacy and impart unpalatably saline characteristics. Yet, arguably, the most enigmatic constituent is yeast itself, that miraculous living microorganism responsible for metamorphosing heavy, compacted dough into a buoyant, aerated loaf. In Thalia's historical epoch, predating the widespread accessibility of commercially produced yeast, master bakers diligently sustained mother starters, fermented amalgamations of flour and water, which effectively harnessed airborne wild yeasts, furnishing the indispensable leavening capability for each day's fresh bread. These vital starters necessitate unremitting daily vigilance, comprising consistent replenishment with fresh flour and pure water, alongside scrupulous regulation of ambient temperature, to preserve the yeast's robust health and potent activity. An expertly cultivated starter possesses the remarkable capacity to persist for extended periods, spanning years, and indeed, even decades, frequently being bequeathed across successive generations, much akin to a cherished familial heirloom. The processes of combining and manipulating the dough, known as mixing and kneading, constitute the pivotal juncture where the baker's consummate expertise is most strikingly revealed. Insufficient incorporation of ingredients will lead to an incomplete amalgamation, invariably culminating in a baked product characterized by an undesirable texture and an irregular crumb formation. Conversely, an excessive duration of manipulation can catastrophically degrade the essential gluten architecture, thereby yielding dense, excessively weighty loaves. Thalia, through her extensive practical experience, has acquired the singular ability to accurately assess the dough's optimal state of preparedness purely by tactile sensation. Dough that has been appropriately developed exhibits a uniformly smooth and remarkably elastic consistency, reacting with reliable predictability to both stretching and formative manipulation. Furthermore, the active process of kneading concurrently integrates atmospheric elements into the dough's matrix, thereby establishing the nascent structural framework that the yeast will subsequently distend during the crucial fermentation phase. The phase of rising, also known as fermentation, represents arguably the most demanding and patience-challenging dimension of the entire bread-making endeavor. The artisan baker is consequently tasked with furnishing an impeccably balanced ambient setting, sufficiently warm to stimulate robust yeast proliferation, yet not so excessively heated as to precipitate an unduly swift progression of fermentation, adequately humid to inhibit the premature formation of a surface crust, but simultaneously not so saturated with moisture that the dough acquires an undesirable stickiness and becomes intractable. There are moments when the ambient air becomes so profoundly humid that the delicate dough, a living entity in itself, transforms into a sticky, recalcitrant mass, rendering it exceedingly difficult, if not entirely impossible, to manage effectively. Through years of dedicated practice and unwavering observation, Thalia has cultivated an extraordinarily acute, almost intuitive understanding of these intricate environmental factors. She possesses a remarkable acumen for calibrating the dough's critical rising durations and the precise temperatures required, making nuanced adjustments that are informed by the prevailing meteorological conditions, the subtle shifts across the seasons, and the unique properties inherent in every distinct batch of dough she meticulously prepares. This profound insight allows her to counteract the challenges posed by fluctuating humidity and other atmospheric influences, ensuring consistent quality. The intricate process of shaping individual loaves demands a harmonious blend of profound technical skill and an innate artistic sensibility. Each distinct form is meticulously crafted to fulfill specific functions and cater to diverse preferences. For instance, elongated loaves are expertly fashioned to present an ample surface crispness, particularly appealing to patrons who savor the satisfyingly resilient consistency of a thoroughly baked crust. Conversely, the classic round loaves are favored for their capacity to cook with remarkable uniformity and to retain their freshness for extended durations. Moreover, small, individually portioned rolls offer a practical and ideal solution for customers seeking convenient single servings. Consequently, each unique shape dictates its own specialized manipulation methods, precise rising durations, and specific baking calibrations. Thalia finds immense satisfaction in crafting loaves that are not merely wholesome and delectable, but are also exquisitely, aesthetically pleasing. She is guided by the profound insight that individuals, in their appreciation of food, eat with their eyes, just as much as they savor with their palates, making visual presentation an integral component of the culinary experience. The final critical period of rising subsequent to the shaping process is absolutely paramount for achieving the optimal crumb structure in the finished bread. Loaves that are insufficiently risen will invariably result in a compact and substantial interior, lacking the desired lightness. Conversely, bread that has been allowed to overproof may unfortunately succumb to structural failure during the thermal processing, leading to an inconsistent crumb density and an altogether insufficient volume. Thalia employs a repertoire of subtle tests to accurately assess optimal proofing. She delicately prods the dough to observe the speed at which it recovers its form, scrutinizes the exterior for telltale indicators of adequate yeast activity, and precisely estimates the proofing period, drawing upon her extensive experience with similar atmospheric conditions and dough characteristics. This level of discerning expertise is forged solely through decades of dedicated application and a meticulous analysis of every baking outcome. The very act of baking fundamentally necessitates a profound comprehension of the unique behavior exhibited by the imposing masonry hearth that stands as the central fixture of the bake shop. These venerable ovens are meticulously brought to temperature by igniting robust fires directly within their cavernous baking chambers, after which the smoldering embers and particulate residue are carefully cleared away. Once the substantial stone walls have retained sufficient thermal energy to process multiple subsequent batches of bread, the latent warmth progressively and uniformly permeates and bakes the dough. This method is instrumental in forging the robust, resilient exteriors and the succulent, delicate crumbs that so distinctly epitomize authentic artisanal loaves. The intricate tasks of regulating the thermal output of the oven and optimizing the precise placement of dough loaves within its confines demand an intricate repertoire of proficiencies that are honed over extensive periods, often spanning many years. The entire succession of thermal processes adheres to a meticulously orchestrated strategy designed to ensure the most optimal utilization of the oven's formidable stored heat. Initially, the oven's phase of peak thermal intensity is judiciously allocated to robust, rustic loaves, which necessitate intense thermal energy to achieve their optimal exterior crispness and characteristic texture. As the thermal levels within the chamber gradually subside, the focus shifts to finer, more sensitive confections, such as enriched brioches, delicate tarts, and other items that would undoubtedly be scorched or compromised in the primary scorching temperatures. Ultimately, the lingering ambient heat, a testament to the oven's enduring warmth, is strategically harnessed for a variety of ancillary tasks: dehydrating aromatic botanicals, gently reheating culinary preparations, or any other activity that is demonstrably enhanced by a mild thermal application. In a truly efficiently operated establishment, every calorie of energy is judiciously repurposed, ensuring that absolutely nothing is wasted. The civic function of the neighborhood bakery transcends the mere act of solely furnishing staple provisions. It functions, in essence, as a vital nexus for communal assembly. Within its warm confines, neighbors converge to share tidings, relay current affairs, and deliberate upon regional happenings, thereby actively cultivating the interpersonal bonds that interweave the very fabric of society. Patrons invariably forge personal rapport with their artisanal providers, strategically planning their arrivals to coincide with the emergence of their preferred varieties of baked goods from the oven. They rely implicitly on the artisan's discernment regarding superiority and recent preparation, considering the establishment an indispensable and dependable purveyor of essential nourishment. Thalia, through her dedicated interaction, possesses intimate familiarity with her clientele's diverse tastes and accordingly tailors her output with remarkable precision. She recognizes, for example, that Marcos the potter favors hearty, substantial barley loaves, specifically chosen to provide enduring energy for his arduous labors at the wheel. Conversely, Helena the weaver expresses a preference for airy, delicate wheat buns, ensuring they will not induce somnolence during her intricate craftsmanship. Younger patrons, the children, naturally gravitate towards confections enriched with natural sweeteners and crunchy inclusions, while elderly customers seek tender, easily masticated breads. This profound, individualized understanding empowers her to cater to her populace with unparalleled efficacy, far surpassing the capabilities of any impersonal industrial enterprise. The pivotal financial significance of bread within classical civilization means that artisanal providers like Thalia invariably hold roles of immense societal accountability. Bread is unequivocally not an indulgence, but an absolute staple, serving as the cornerstone of dietary intake for the vast majority of the populace, particularly during periods marked by scarcity of staple crops or volatile market valuations. Bakers are thus perpetually tasked with harmonizing the pressing demands of their patrons with the imperative for the viability of their own commercial enterprises. It is not uncommon for them to offer deferred payment options to their loyal clientele during periods of economic hardship, demonstrating a profound understanding that nurturing communal bonds ultimately supersedes the pursuit of immediate financial gains. The cyclical fluctuations in cereal crop supply and intrinsic characteristics invariably imbue the artisan's vocation with enduring intrigue and complexity. Freshly gathered cereal crops, for instance, often usher in enhanced gustatory profiles and superior dough performance, yet they simultaneously necessitate modifications in processing methodologies. Conversely, aged cereal stock might demand altered liquid absorption ratios or extended kneading durations. Furthermore, meteorological conditions influence not solely the unprocessed ingredients, but also profoundly affect the culinary workspace ambiance itself. Atmospherically saturated periods, for example, require precise adjustments in fermentation durations, while chilly atmospheric conditions may mandate alterations in thermal regulation protocols for the oven. A truly proficient artisan cultivates an adaptive mastery over these vicissitudes, learning to harmoniously work with their inherent nature instead of contending against them. Sacred rites and ancestral customs likewise profoundly shape the artisan's craft. Specific ceremonial observances, for example, necessitate distinctive loaves imbued with customary forms and components. Matrimonial festivities, in contrast, call for ornately adorned confections, specifically designed to embody auspicious fortune and abundant fruitfulness. Conversely, somber memorial assemblies require unadorned, nourishing provisions, befitting such grave circumstances. Thalia diligently preserves ancestral formulations and artisanal methodologies for all these unique requirements, recognizing that her vocation encompasses not merely furnishing everyday nourishment, but also the vital guardianship of cultural heritage. As the daylight hours advance and loyal patrons start gathering for their essential provisions, Thalia experiences the profound contentment that invariably accompanies diligently executed labor. The freshly baked goods resting upon timber frames are not merely loaves. They embody countless moments of meticulous focus, decades of refined expertise, and a rich lineage of wisdom transmitted through the venerable fraternity of bakers. Each individual loaf will go on to sustain a household, facilitate daily endeavors, and furnish the vitality that sustains the communal dynamism. Tomorrow, she will recommence with fresh, raw material, confronting novel intricacies and embracing renewed occasions to ply the ancient craft that so beautifully elevates basic components into fundamental sustenance. Just as artisanal bakers, exemplified by Thalia, sustained their locales with essential provisions, so too did the heralds and couriers of ancient Greece foster the vital links between distant places through their unwavering, consistent dedication. Philippus, a seasoned messenger, meticulously secures the satchel of tanned hide draped over his epaulette and commences his departure from the polis of Athens precisely as the first rays of morning illuminate the slopes of Mount Pentelicus. He embarks upon a fresh expedition, one that will carry crucial dispatches, personal correspondence, and official governmental papers across the rugged, elevated terrain that geographically delineates the boundaries between autonomous polis. His present objective is the historically significant city of Corinth, a rigorous 2-day traverse over pathways that vary considerably in their composition. At times they are meticulously laid cobblestone thoroughfares, at others simple earthen trails, and occasionally they diminish to nothing more than mere vestiges winding precariously through untamed wilderness. The exacting vocation of a dedicated courier demands a rare confluence of exceptional physical endurance, acute topographical acumen, and refined interpersonal dexterity, qualities rarely found in the general populace. Philippus, for instance, must possess the formidable fortitude to traverse an impressive 20 to 30 miles daily by pedal exertion, bearing not solely the critical dispatches, but also the essential provisions required for protracted expeditions spanning multiple days. Beyond mere strength, he must be intimately familiar with the intricate network of thoroughfares, the dependable way stations for rest and replenishment, and the periodic perils, such as flash floods or banditry, that might impede transit during different seasons. Crucially, he must possess an unimpeachable character, such that civic administrators, commercial traders, and private individuals alike will confidently confide to his care-sensitive correspondence, precious parchments, and time-sensitive intelligence, information that profoundly impacts people's economic well-being and, on occasion, their very existence. The rigorous regimen for a courier typically commences during formative years, with youths exhibiting a natural aptitude for swift locomotion, progressively acclimatized to extended traverses and arduous topography. Young Philippus, for example, initiated his apprenticeship by conveying dispatches within the intricate urban districts of Athens. This initial phase allowed him to master the city's labyrinthine street patterns, develop the muscular fortitude of his lower limbs essential for uninterrupted ambulation, and cultivate the consistent cadence that enables a runner to traverse optimal mileage without succumbing to undue fatigue. Once he had demonstrably proven unwavering dependability on localized circuits, he was progressively entrusted with more extensive commissions, eventually advancing to the demanding trans-urban thoroughfares that constitute the essential arteries of Hellenic intelligence transmission networks. The thoroughfares themselves bear witness to aeons of progressive amelioration and infrastructural proliferation. Some routes, indeed, merely follow primeval tracks etched by innumerable epochs of wayfarers, pastoralists guiding their herds to ephemeral grazing lands, merchants conveying commodities between bustling markets, devotees journeying to hallowed sanctuaries, and military forces traversing sovereign domains. Other arteries, however, represent newer architectural endeavors, surfaced with meticulously fitted lithic units and ingeniously designed for optimal linearity of passage between significant urban centers. Yet even the most expertly constructed thoroughfares necessitate perpetual upkeep. Consequently, couriers cultivate the agility to circumvent unforeseen obstacles such as erosion-induced breaches, sudden geological detachments, and periodic inundation, all of which can render established pathways momentarily impassable. The rugged topographical configuration of Hellas renders interregional intelligence transmission exceptionally arduous. Formidable alpine chains, for instance, often demarcate fertile basins that, while perhaps a mere handful of stadia apart in avian trajectory, invariably demand protracted periods of arduous ascent for pedestrian transit. While maritime pathways may circumvent certain altitudinal variations inherent in the interior, they nonetheless subject wayfarers to an entirely distinct set of perils. These include violent tempests rendering littoral trails treacherous, periodic deluges of waterways necessitating perilous crossings, and extensive segments of the littoral zone where precipitous bluffs plunge abruptly into the thalassic expanse, affording no feasible corridor for passage whatsoever, lie into the sea, leaving no room for paths at all. Philippus possesses an intricate mental cartography of the entire geographical expanse, a profound understanding meticulously cultivated over numerous years of extensive travel and astute observation. He unerringly identifies which flowing streams yield potable fresh water, discerns which settlements offer a warm reception to wayfarers and which harbor suspicion towards unfamiliar faces, and precisely knows which elevated mountain passes remain accessible furthest into the frigid depths of winter and earliest with the advent of spring's thaw. This invaluable expertise cannot be gleaned from scholarly tomes or printed charts. It is acquired solely through first-hand engagement, through the patient, incremental accumulation of nuanced details that seasoned voyagers leverage to ensure the secure and efficient progression of their arduous expeditions. The missives he painstakingly transports constitute the very essence and vitality of ancient Greek civilization. Official communiques exchanged between sovereign city governments, furnishing crucial updates on delicate diplomatic negotiations, strategic military deployments, intricate trade agreements, and the myriad other pressing concerns that necessitate seamless coordination among politically independent communities. Beyond official decrees, Philippus conveys extensive commercial correspondence between astute merchants, meticulously orchestrating shipments of goods, shrewdly negotiating price points, and disseminating critical intelligence regarding fluctuating market conditions in distant urban centers. Simultaneously, he carries intimate private letters between cherished family members, devoted friends, and influential business associates, thereby safeguarding personal bonds across the considerable distances that often separated the diverse Greek communities. The inviolability of these messages remains a perpetual apprehension, as information inherently possesses considerable worth, prompting some individuals to exert extraordinary efforts to intercept communications that might bestow upon them decisive commercial or political supremacies. Philippus has assiduously mastered sophisticated methodologies for safeguarding the intrinsic content of his transmissions. Intricate coding systems designed to obscure highly sensitive data, the practice of dispatching multiple identical copies via divergent pathways to guarantee the secure arrival of at least one, and distinct recognition signals that enable him to unequivocally verify the legitimate identity of the intended recipients. The most profoundly sensitive communications are not committed to parchment, but rather indelibly etched into memory, a practice that demands messengers endowed with truly extraordinary mnemonic capabilities and an unwavering, absolute fidelity. Unpredictable meteorological phenomena present ceaseless impediments that necessitate perpetual adaptability and sagacious discernment. Springtime ushers in pervasive mud, rendering established thoroughfares virtually impassable, while the oppressive heat of summer can pose grave perils to anyone venturing on extensive journeys during the day's hottest hours. Autumnal tempests frequently swell rivers to bursting point and can, with minimal forewarning, demolish vital bridges. The relentless snowfall of winter seals off mountain passes and transforms travel into a perilous or utterly impossible endeavor across elevated routes. Experienced couriers cultivate the acumen to interpret subtle atmospheric indicators and consequently adjust their itineraries, sometimes opting to delay for several days, awaiting improved conditions rather than hazarding dangerous passage. The rigorous physical demands inherent in incessant travel command meticulous consideration of one's nutritional intake, hydration levels, and essential periods of repose. Philippus provisions himself with preserved foodstuffs that resist spoilage during multi-day expeditions. Dense, durable bread, sun-dried fruits, nutrient-rich nuts, and aged cheese that matures gracefully instead of decaying. He possesses an encyclopedic knowledge of every dependable water source along his customary itineraries, and he prudently carries water receptacles for those arduous stretches where natural springs are conspicuously absent. Slumber frequently entails bivouacking beneath the celestial canopy, enveloped in a protective cloak, relying on a blend of good fortune and vigilant awareness for defense against predatory wildlife and human aggressors. Yet this demanding profession also bestows unique emoluments that few other vocations can rival. Professional emissaries witness a far greater expanse of the world than the majority of individuals in antiquity, immersing themselves in the rich tapestry of diverse topographies, distinct cultures, and varied modes of existence that flourish within the Hellenic sphere. They cultivate an expansive outlook on unfolding events, comprehending how localized developments integrate into broader societal paradigms, and discerning crucial interconnections between geographically disparate communities that might otherwise remain imperceptible to those whose lives are confined to a single locale. This profound breadth of knowledge renders them invaluable founts of information and sagacious counsel, earning them a revered status among the communities they diligently serve. The interpersonal and communal dimensions of a messenger's duties are as profoundly significant as the strenuous physical exertions. Messengers function as indispensable informal conduits for news, conveying not merely official pronouncements, but also circulating local gossip, speculative rumors, and general intelligence that assists communities in maintaining vital ties with the wider global environment. They deliver tidings of joyous festivals and public celebrations, impart reports concerning bountiful or meager harvests, and share crucial information about political shifts that could potentially influence trade routes or travel conditions. This pervasive informal communication web contributes significantly to forging the collective cultural identity that intricately binds the Greek world together, notwithstanding its inherent political fragmentation. Establishing robust relationships with innkeepers, stable proprietors, and other individuals who furnish essential services to travelers is paramount for the successful execution of a messenger's vocation. These indispensable connections are meticulously forged over many years of scrupulous honesty in dealings, consistent and reliable remuneration, and a foundation of mutual deference. A messenger who cultivates a reputation for equitable conduct and engaging discourse will discover that opportunities materialize more readily, vital information flows with greater ease, and crucial assistance is swiftly available when unforeseen emergencies invariably arise. Conversely, couriers who exploit hospitality or prove themselves untrustworthy rapidly find themselves unwelcome at the very establishments upon which they depend for the successful culmination of their assigned routes. The ingenious development of relay systems dramatically accelerates the transmission of messages beyond the capabilities of any single messenger. Instead of one individual undertaking an entire arduous journey, dispatches are efficiently passed between a succession of fresh runners strategically positioned at regular intervals, enabling each new courier to sustain maximum velocity over shorter, more manageable distances. These sophisticated systems demand meticulous coordination and absolute dependability from every participant, as a breakdown at any single juncture severes the entire communication chain. However, when flawlessly executed, relay systems possess the capacity to convey urgent messages with a swiftness unparalleled by any other ancient communication methodology. Navigation proficiencies become an ingrained instinct for seasoned messengers, who acquire the ability to orient themselves using the sun's position, the constellations, prominent natural and artificial landmarks, and subtle environmental cues that unerringly indicate direction and precise location. The crucial capacity to maintain a correct bearing during nocturnal travel, amidst dense fog, or within unfamiliar territories, can represent the critical distinction between a successful delivery and perilous, costly delays. These vital competencies are progressively honed through meticulous observation and the kind of acute attention to natural phenomena that ancient peoples, out of sheer necessity, painstakingly developed. The profound economic significance of dependable communication ensures that professional messengers enjoy both consistent employment and considerable societal esteem. Despite the inherent physical rigors of their work, merchants rely heavily upon them for current intelligence regarding market conditions. Governments depend on their services for critical diplomatic and administrative communications, and private citizens entrust them with personal messages that sustain familial and social relationships across vast distances. This pervasive reliance not only generates job security, but also imposes substantial responsibility, given that communication failures can precipitate grave repercussions for all parties involved. As Philippus arrives at the midpoint of his journey to Corinth and pauses for a much-needed respite at a familiar hostelry, he contemplates the indispensable role his labor plays in upholding the intricate interconnections that bind Greek civilization into a cohesive whole. Each message he carefully conveys symbolizes a vital thread within the elaborate tapestry of relationships, spanning political, commercial, and deeply personal spheres that enables widely dispersed communities to function as a unified, coherent culture. Tomorrow, he will finalize this delivery and commence the return voyage to Athens, bearing new dispatches that will perpetuate the ceaseless circulation of vital information, thereby ensuring the ancient world remains intricately connected. What other dedicated, patient servants meticulously maintained the foundational infrastructure that permitted ancient Greek civilization to flourish across immense geographical expanses? While intrepid messengers such as Philippus transported spoken and written words across great distances, the diligent scribes of ancient Greece steadfastly preserved those words across vast epochs of time. Within a diminutive, unlit chamber situated beneath the bustling Athenian agora, Lysander carefully dips his reed pen into precisely prepared ink and assiduously continues the arduous task of transcribing the extensive legal code that will govern his illustrious city for countless generations to come. Each individual letter must be impeccably formed, every single word correctly spelled, and each line meticulously spaced. A singular error within such critical legal documentation possesses the potential to fundamentally alter meanings, inadvertently create problematic loopholes, or utterly invalidate crucial provisions. This exacting work demands absolute, unwavering concentration, boundless patience, and a profound reverence for the written word that only a select few individuals in this predominantly oral culture truly comprehend. The meticulous preservation of laws in their written manifestation represents one of humanity's most monumental achievements, though its foundational importance to modern existence is so pervasive that its significance is rarely contemplated. Prior to the advent of writing, legal statutes existed solely within human recollection, transmitted across successive generations of venerable judges and wise elders who diligently maintained intricate oral traditions. Yet, human memory is inherently fallible. Interpretations of the law inevitably evolve over time, and contentious disputes frequently arise concerning the precise wording and intent of legal precepts. Written law codes, conversely, furnish unparalleled stability, unwavering consistency, and the invaluable capacity to consult exact phraseology whenever complex questions or ambiguities emerge. Lysander acquired his specialized craft through the time-honored traditional apprenticeship model, dedicating numerous years to serving under accomplished master scribes, who imparted to him not only the intricate technical proficiencies of writing, but also the profound ethical responsibilities inherent in safeguarding vital historical and legal documents. His rigorous training commenced with learning the meticulous preparation of writing implements and materials, precisely cutting reed pens to achieve the ideal point and flexibility, expertly mixing inks formulated to retain their legibility for many centuries, and meticulously preparing parchment and papyrus surfaces designed to flawlessly accept ink and maintain their structural integrity over extended periods. A particular type of exemplary ink possessed the remarkable characteristic of adhering immaculately to the writing surface, ensuring that characters were rendered with pristine clarity and without any unsightly smudges or bleeding. Furthermore, this superior formulation was inherently stable, demonstrating an impressive ability to retain its structural integrity and sharp definition, thus holding its shape steadfastly even across the passage of many centuries, a truly indispensable quality for any enduring documentation. The physical exertions inherent in scribal endeavors, while distinct from the strenuous labors undertaken by tireless messengers or skilled craftsmen, nevertheless imposed a profound and undeniable toll on the human body. Prolonged periods of bowing over expansive writing surfaces inevitably led to the development of chronic ailments affecting the back and neck, a persistent source of discomfort. The intricate, fine detail work, demanding unwavering visual acuity, placed immense strain upon the eyes, a challenge exacerbated when illumination was limited to the flickering glow of an oil lamp or the faint shimmer of candlelight. Moreover, the ceaseless, repetitive motions involved in the act of writing frequently precipitated debilitating pain in the hands and arms, often akin to modern-day repetitive strain injuries. Yet perhaps the most formidable hurdle was the relentless mental demand for unflagging concentration. Even a fleeting lapse in attention could introduce egregious errors, necessitating the laborious and time-consuming task of recommencing entire sections of a document from scratch. The vast repository of legal documents meticulously copied by Lysander encompassed the entire breadth of civic existence, forming the very framework of Athenian society. This included comprehensive commercial laws that meticulously regulated contracts, intricate trade agreements, and the nuanced principles of property ownership and transfer. It also comprised stringent criminal laws that precisely delineated offenses and prescribed appropriate punishments for transgressions. Furthermore, the collection contained foundational constitutional provisions that meticulously established governmental procedures, defined the powers of various magistracies, and explicitly safeguarded the fundamental rights and privileges of citizens. Finally, an array of administrative regulations governed everything from the orderly operations of bustling market stalls to the solemn observance of sacred religious festivals. Each distinct category of document, owing to its specific purpose and audience, mandated divergent formatting conventions, required varying levels of intricate detail, and necessitated unique approaches to organization and the critical practice of cross-referencing. Lysander's profound comprehension of the textual content he painstakingly copied was an indispensable asset, elevating him to the status of an exceptionally effective scribe. This intimate understanding empowered him to discern potential inaccuracies that might have inadvertently infiltrated source documents and enabled him to uphold an unwavering consistency in the specialized lexicon of legal terminology. His extensive expertise in Athenian law was not the product of formal legal education, but rather the hard-won outcome of a patient, iterative process. Copying countless legal provisions over years, meticulously observing the intricate interconnections and relationships between disparate statutes, and keenly discerning how abstract legal principles were practically applied across a multitude of diverse circumstances and judicial precedents. The essential materials chosen for the creation of legal documents were rigorously selected to meet the most exacting benchmarks of durability and enduring permanence, reflecting the timeless nature of the laws they enshrined. Papyrus, skillfully fashioned from the tall, resilient reeds of the Egyptian Nile, offered a commendably smooth and responsive surface for writing. However, it exhibited a notable vulnerability, tending to degrade relatively rapidly when exposed to the corrosive influence of damp or humid atmospheric conditions. Parchment, meticulously prepared from the specially treated skins of animals, represented a considerably more expensive alternative. Yet, its elevated cost was justified by its vastly superior longevity and its remarkable resilience against the wear and tear inevitably inflicted by frequent handling and prolonged use. For documents of paramount significance and lasting import, scribes would procure the absolute finest grades of parchment available, meticulously prepared through time-honored techniques specifically designed to maximize its inherent longevity and enhance its resistance to the ravages of fading, cracking, or any other insidious forms of deterioration that could compromise the integrity of the written record. Inks, too, presented their own formidable set of challenges, for an improperly formulated concoction held the potential to fade into illegibility, bleed uncontrollably across the page, or even, over extended periods, chemically corrode and physically eat through the delicate writing surfaces. Consequently, the most esteemed inks for crafting permanent documents were meticulously prepared from precisely calibrated mixtures of carbon black, revered for its deep, stable pigment, and specialized binding agents. These agents were crucial for ensuring the ink's ability to penetrate deeply into the fibers of the writing surface, rather than merely resting superficially upon it, thereby creating an indelible mark. Such high-quality inks necessitated regular, fresh mixing, as prolonged storage could cause them to thicken and become exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to work with, clogging quills and resulting in uneven script. The masterful preparation of truly superior ink was, in essence, an intricate art form in itself, demanding a sophisticated understanding of fundamental chemistry, an intuitive grasp of material science, and a keen awareness of the specific requirements dictated by different types of documents and writing media. The meticulous writing process adhered to a series of established procedures, each thoughtfully conceived to systematically minimize the occurrence of errors and steadfastly ensure an unwavering consistency throughout the final document. Initially, Lysander would undertake a thorough and exhaustive reading of the source document, a critical first step. During this careful perusal, he would proactively identify any potential ambiguities, problematic passages, or unclear statements that necessitated clarification or resolution before the actual copying endeavor could commence. Subsequently, he would painstakingly plan the precise layout of the new document, a strategic undertaking involving careful calculations of the spatial requirements for each section, the optimal placement of page breaks, and the most effective arrangement of the text to ensure both maximum readability and paramount legal utility for future reference. The actual transcription of the text was meticulously executed in distinct stages, each deliberately incorporating built-in opportunities for the diligent detection and timely correction of any emerging errors. The initial phase involved the creation of a rough draft, wherein the paramount objective was the accurate capture of all content, with less immediate concern for perfect formatting or aesthetic presentation. This preliminary draft was then subjected to an exceptionally rigorous proofreading process involving a painstaking, word-by-word comparison against the original source document, with all identified discrepancies and inaccuracies being meticulously rectified. Only upon the successful completion of this exhaustive review and correction phase would work then commence on the final version, a document that was expected to embody the absolute highest standards of legibility, impeccable formatting, and overall physical appearance, reflecting its enduring legal significance. Legal documents, by their very nature, demanded an exceptional degree of attention to formatting and organizational structure, precisely engineered to maximize their practical utility as readily accessible references. Related provisions and statutory clauses had to be logically grouped together, clearly delineated with intuitive headings and informative subheadings, thereby enabling users to swiftly and efficiently locate specific information. Cross-references, linking various sections and related legal principles, were required to be not only impeccably accurate, but also genuinely helpful, guiding the reader through the intricate web of legislation. Crucial definitions of terms and pivotal legal principles needed to be conspicuously highlighted or strategically positioned within the text, ensuring they could be easily identified and readily accessed. The accomplishment of all these intricate requirements demanded not merely exceptional copying skills, but also a sophisticated level of editorial judgment and a profound understanding of the practical ways in which these documents would ultimately be utilized by the populace. The secure storage and diligent preservation of completed legal documents presented a continuous array of challenges, extending far beyond the initial act of transcription. These precious records demanded rigorous protection against the corrosive effects of moisture, the destructive incursions of insects and rodents, the devastating threat of fire, and the pervasive risk of human carelessness or neglect. Furthermore, they necessitated systematic organization, employing methods that facilitated the rapid and precise retrieval of specific items whenever required. Regular, periodic inspection and meticulous maintenance were indispensable, allowing for the early identification of any signs of deterioration before they could escalate into serious, irreversible damage. Most critically, these vital documents required periodic recopying to generate fresh, pristine versions, ensuring their continued legibility and accessibility before the originals succumbed to the ravages of time and wear, becoming too degraded to decipher. The profound societal importance ascribed to accurate and reliable legal records meant that professional scribes, such as Lysander, occupied positions of considerable public trust and weighty responsibility. Citizens from all walks of life, enterprising merchants, and authoritative government officials alike depended unequivocally on these foundational legal documents for the robust protection of their inherent rights, for the equitable resolution of complex disputes, and for indispensable guidance in navigating intricate and often perplexing civic situations. Consequently, Even minor errors introduced during the painstaking process of legal copying could precipitate severe and far-reaching consequences, potentially invalidating crucial contracts, inadvertently creating unjust advantages for certain parties, or, in the most dire circumstances, rendering it utterly impossible to definitively ascertain the precise requirements of the law in specific critical contexts. The meticulously designed working environment of legal scribes served as a tangible reflection of the paramount importance universally attached to their intricate and demanding work. Lysander's dedicated copying chamber, for instance, was thoughtfully configured to furnish optimal conditions conducive to detailed, focused labor. It boasted ample and consistent lighting, maintained a comfortable and stable temperature, and offered effective protection from distracting noise and unwelcome interruptions. The specialized furniture within was ergonomically arranged to promote proper posture and to significantly mitigate physical strain during extended periods of sedentary work. Writing surfaces were precisely positioned at the ideal height and angle, ensuring maximum comfort and efficiency. Sophisticated storage systems were implemented to keep all materials meticulously organized and readily accessible. In essence, every single element of the workspace was carefully orchestrated to foster an environment that promoted unwavering accuracy, maximized operational efficiency, and steadfastly safeguarded the invaluable documents entrusted to their care. Collaboration among scribes was an absolutely indispensable element for the successful execution of monumental undertakings, such as the comprehensive transcription of entire legal codes or the meticulous compilation of extensive administrative records. In such large-scale projects, various scribes might simultaneously undertake work on different sections, a division of labor that necessitated an exceptionally high degree of careful coordination. This meticulous oversight was crucial to ensuring a seamless consistency in formatting conventions, a uniform application of specialized terminology, and the impeccable accuracy of all cross-references across the entirety of the sprawling document. Regular convocations and meetings provided invaluable forums where scribes could openly discuss emerging problems, collectively share effective solutions, and collectively uphold the exceptionally rigorous standards that legal documents inherently demanded. Furthermore, this collaborative methodology inherently provided robust checks against individual errors, as multiple discerning eyes would meticulously review each document before it could ultimately be deemed complete and authoritative. The intellectual challenges intrinsic to legal copying transcended the mere mechanical act of transcription, extending profoundly to encompass sophisticated interpretation, judicious organization, and critical editorial judgment. Legal language, by its very nature, frequently incorporated highly technical terms, convoluted sentence structures, and intricate references to other foundational documents or overarching legal principles. Scribes were therefore compelled to possess a sufficiently deep and nuanced understanding of these linguistic and conceptual complexities. This intellectual grasp enabled them to recognize immediately when a particular passage seemed illogical or nonsensical, when a cross-reference might be factually incorrect, or when certain formatting choices could inadvertently sow confusion among future users of the documents, thereby compromising their clarity and utility. The comprehensive training of aspiring new scribes demanded far more than simply imparting technical proficiencies. It necessitated the profound installation of the precise attitudes and rigorous work habits that the exacting discipline of legal copying inherently required. Qualities such as unwavering attention to minute detail, unflappable patience with repetitive tasks, an uncompromising pride in absolute accuracy, and a deep, intuitive understanding of the broader, overarching importance of their work, were all virtues that had to be assiduously cultivated through extensive practical experience and the invaluable guidance of dedicated mentoring. Master scribes, like Lysander, embraced this critical training responsibility with profound seriousness, recognizing with clarity that the enduring quality and reliability of future legal records rested entirely upon the thoroughness and efficacy with which they prepared their worthy successors. The economic ramifications intrinsically linked to scribal work served as a direct and palpable reflection of the immense value that society unequivocally placed upon the existence of accurate and unimpeachable legal records. Professional scribes, consequently, commanded favorable wages, enjoyed the stability of consistent employment, and were accorded a respectable standing within the social hierarchy. The specialized materials they employed, including exquisite high-quality parchment, indelible and permanent inks, and precision-engineered tools, represented significant financial investments that communities willingly undertook. This substantial expenditure was readily justified by the paramount importance of possessing utterly reliable and enduring legal documentation. Crucially, this robust economic support afforded scribes the invaluable luxury of prioritizing meticulous quality over mere speed, thereby enabling them to produce documents of exceptional caliber that would faithfully serve their communities for countless generations to come. As the gentle hues of evening began to paint the sky, and Lysander brought another section of the ancient legal code he had been diligently transcribing to a meticulous completion, he was enveloped by a profound, quiet satisfaction. This deep contentment stemmed from the profound understanding that his labor served a purpose far grander than immediate personal needs. The precise words he had so carefully preserved this day would, in due course, guide critical legal decisions, steadfastly protect the fundamental rights of countless citizens, and meticulously uphold the delicate fabric of social order, long after his own name had faded from memory. His unwavering attention to the most minute details, his steadfast and patient commitment to absolute accuracy, and his enlightened grasp of the overarching importance of codified law, all converged to form an indispensable cornerstone of civilized society. As the morrow dawned, he would once again embark upon a fresh section, continuing the ceaseless yet utterly essential work of perpetuating human knowledge in an enduring and permanent form. Beyond the dedicated scribes who meticulously preserved the legislative foundations of ancient Greek civilization, what other patient guardians of knowledge and essential practices contributed to maintaining the intellectual and practical scaffolding of this remarkable era? Just as individuals like Lysander painstakingly safeguarded the intricate laws that governed the very structure of ancient Greek society, ensuring its legal continuity and moral compass, so too did the diligent salt-gatherers of the Aegean tirelessly preserve the vital foodstuffs that sustained its very populace, guaranteeing physical survival and communal well-being. Reserved the food that sustained it. Theodorus, a seasoned artisan of the coast, steps into the tranquil, sun-drenched lagoons near Marathon. The gentle lapping of the warmed brine against his legs, signaling the commencement of another day dedicated to the extraction of one of antiquity's most indispensable commodities. While contemporary societies might view salt as a ubiquitous and unremarkable substance, its true value in the ancient world was prodigious, literally equating to its weight in shimmering silver, serving as an indispensable agent for preserving sustenance, meticulously curing leather hides, and facilitating a myriad of other processes that formed the bedrock of a sophisticated, civilized existence. The intricate methodology of extracting salt from the vast expanse of seawater demands an exceptional degree of patience, precise timing, and an ingrained, almost intuitive comprehension of the unique local environmental conditions, a mastery that typically accrues over many arduous years of dedicated practice. Theodorus, through diligent observation and inherited wisdom, has cultivated the ability to decipher the subtle environmental cues that unequivocally indicate the optimal moments for salt production. The felicitous convergence of specific atmospheric temperatures, ambient humidity levels, prevailing wind currents, and the rhythmic ebb and flow of tidal cycles, all conspiring to forge the quintessential milieu for natural evaporative processes. An excessive deluge of rain, for instance, would inevitably dilute the precious brine, rendering it less potent. Conversely, an insufficient duration of solar exposure would significantly impede the rate of evaporation. Furthermore, overly vigorous winds could tragically whisk away the nascent, delicate crystals before they could be properly collected. The extensive salt flats where Theodorus meticulously toils are not, in fact, geological formations shaped by nature's caprice, but rather meticulously engineered systems comprising a network of shallow, interlinked ponds and intricate channels, assiduously maintained and refined across countless generations of dedicated salt gatherers. Each individual pond within this complex system is calibrated with exacting precision to guarantee a uniform depth of water, its base meticulously lined with impermeable clay to thwart any undesirable seepage, and equipped with strategically placed wooden sluice gates designed to regulate the controlled flow of water between distinct sections. The vital channels that funnel fresh seawater into this elaborate system undergo regular, diligent cleansing to prevent any obstruction by intrusive sand, drifting seaweed, or various detritus that tempestuous storms might sweep in from the deeper, more turbulent offshore waters. The crisp, early hours of the morning present the most propitious window for a thorough inspection of the salt ponds, when the ambient air remains cool and still, and the cumulative effects of overnight evaporation have sufficiently concentrated the brine to its ideal strength. Theodorus embarks on his deliberate journey through the shallow, translucent water. He employs a lengthy, precisely crafted wooden rake, its smooth handle worn by years of use, to gently probe the bottom of each pond, listening intently for the distinctive, telltale crunch of salt crystals beginning to coalesce and adhere to the clay surface. This auditory signal is unmistakable, sharply differentiated from the soft, yielding squelch of mud or the abrasive scrape of shells and stones. Upon discovering a pond deemed ready for the impending harvest, he meticulously marks its precise location with a simple yet essential wooden stake, ensuring his efficient return later with the appropriate specialized implements. The actual harvesting of salt transcends mere physical labor. It is an endeavor that demands the nuanced skill and intuitive discernment characteristic of a refined art form. The delicate crystals must be gathered at the precise, optimal moment. An untimely collection, occurring too early, would yield crystals still diminutive in size and inextricably mingled with undesirable impurities. Conversely, a delayed harvest, occurring too late, risks the lamentable dissolution of the precious crystals back into the surrounding brine. Theodorus masterfully wields a specialized implement, ingeniously designed as a hybrid of a rake and a scoop, featuring closely spaced, finely crafted wooden tines that permit the unhindered drainage of water while effectively ensnaring the coveted salt crystals. Each careful scoop must be executed with utmost precision and a feather-light touch, meticulously avoiding any disturbance of the settled sediment on the pond's floor. An oversight that would inevitably contaminate the pristine, pearly white salt with unsightly mud and extraneous debris. The diligently collected salt is carefully transferred into robust, expertly woven baskets, each meticulously lined with a permeable cloth. This ingenious design facilitates the gradual drainage of any residual brine, while securely containing the precious crystals within. These laden baskets are then strategically positioned upon sturdy wooden platforms, meticulously elevated above the water's surface, allowing the relentless force of gravity to perform the majority of the labor in segregating the liquid from the solid. This intricate process cannot, under any circumstances, be precipitously rushed. Any attempt to forcefully squeeze or press the salt in an effort to expedite water removal would tragically crush the delicate crystals, thereby significantly diminishing the overall quality and market value of the final product. Instead, Theodorus, with practiced hands, arranges the baskets in a deliberate, intricate pattern specifically engineered to maximize ambient air circulation and optimize the natural drainage process. Rigorous quality control constitutes an indispensable element in the intricate art of salt production, primarily because varying grades of salt are destined for distinct purposes and consequently command vastly different market prices. The most exquisite, pristine white crystals, entirely devoid of any discoloration or foreign particulate matter, are meticulously set aside for the critical tasks of food preservation and delicate culinary seasoning. These premium crystals are destined for discerning, affluent households, esteemed professional chefs, and astute merchants who specialize in the lucrative trade of luxury commodities. Lower grades of salt, which might permissibly contain traces of fine sand or organic material, are nonetheless perfectly suitable for less stringent applications, such as the arduous process of curing leather, the vibrant dyeing of cloth, or various other industrial purposes where absolute purity is less paramount than sheer volumetric quantity. The demanding enterprise of salt gathering necessitates an unwavering vigilance towards prevailing market conditions and the meticulous cultivation of enduring customer relationships, responsibilities that extend far beyond the tangible physical labor of harvesting. Theodorus, through years of dedicated effort, assiduously maintains vital connections with a network of influential merchants who orchestrate the intricate transportation of salt to remote inland cities, with dedicated food preservers who rely on consistent, reliable supplies for the sustenance of their businesses, and with discerning, affluent households who place a high premium on the unwavering quality and consistency of his meticulously produced product. These invaluable relationships are meticulously forged and cemented over many years of dependable delivery, transparent and honest dealings, and the sterling reputation he has meticulously cultivated for consistently producing salt that precisely fulfills the unique and specific requirements of each individual customer. The capricious nature of the weather perpetually presents an array of formidable challenges, demanding both an inherent flexibility in daily operations and a comprehensive approach to long-term strategic planning. A mere week of incessant, heavy rainfall, for instance, possesses the devastating potential to utterly ruin an entire batch of developing salt, thereby compelling the gatherer to painstakingly drain the affected ponds and recommence the entire arduous process anew with fresh seawater. Violent storms can inflict significant damage upon the meticulously maintained pond structures, necessitating immediate, urgent repairs to avert the catastrophic loss of concentrated brine, which represents weeks of patient, tireless labor. Furthermore, extended periods of overcast, sunless weather drastically impede the rate of evaporation, creating a formidable backlog of partially developed salt that must be managed with extreme care and foresight to prevent spoilage and maintain its integrity. The inherent seasonal rhythms governing salt production dictate that the vast majority of the year's arduous harvest must be meticulously completed during the parched, arid summer months, a period characterized by exceptionally high evaporation rates and minimal, if any, rainfall. This natural cycle gives rise to intensely demanding periods of concentrated activity, which are subsequently succeeded by quieter, less frenetic months, during which attention shifts towards essential maintenance, thorough repairs, and meticulous preparation for the ensuing season. Throughout the colder, less productive winter months, Theodorus diligently undertakes the vital tasks of repairing and enhancing his intricate pond systems, engaging in crucial negotiations for contracts with prospective customers for the forthcoming year, and meticulously processing the substantial quantities of salt carefully stored from the bountiful summer harvests into various distinct grades and appropriate packaging. The specialized implements and essential equipment employed in the ancient craft of salt gathering are not mere tools. They are indispensable items that demand the same meticulous care and attention typically bestowed upon the precious salt ponds themselves. Wooden tools, for instance, are regularly treated with specific oils, carefully selected to prevent deterioration and rot without, crucially, introducing any contaminants to the delicate salt. Any metal components integrated into the tools are assiduously kept free of rust, which would inevitably discolor the pristine final product, rendering it less desirable. Baskets, the primary receptacles for the harvested crystals, are either meticulously repaired or completely replaced before any wear and tear creates holes that could tragically allow the precious salt to escape. Even the seemingly innocuous cloth linings, which play a critical role in the drainage process, must be chosen and maintained with extreme discernment. Different weaves, for example, inherently provide varying drainage rates, and certain dyes or chemical treatments, which might appear harmless at first glance, could subtly but significantly affect the delicate taste or the pristine visual appearance of the finished salt. The profound body of knowledge indispensable for successful salt production encompasses a sophisticated understanding of chemistry, meteorology, and engineering, a breadth of expertise that rivals any other ancient craft. Salt gatherers must possess an intricate comprehension of how diverse dissolved minerals crystallize at varying concentrations, how subtle shifts in atmospheric pressure can significantly influence evaporation rates, and how to expertly design and meticulously maintain complex hydraulic systems that precisely regulate water flow through multiple interconnected ponds. This invaluable specialized knowledge is typically transmitted across generations, either through familial lines or via rigorous apprenticeship systems, ensuring the meticulous preservation of both practical techniques and profound theoretical understanding. The economic dimensions of the salt trade vividly reflect the absolutely essential nature of this commodity within ancient society. Salt gathering provides a consistent and reliable income stream throughout the productive season, with opportune moments for securing premium prices when supply becomes constrained by adverse weather conditions or other unforeseen factors. The work undeniably necessitates a significant initial capital investment in the intricate construction of ponds and the acquisition of specialized equipment, but these substantial costs can be gradually recouped over many years of sustained production. Crucially, the demand for salt is unceasing and remarkably predictable. Every individual in society requires it, and for the vast majority of its indispensable uses, there are simply no effective or viable substitutes available. The inherent competition among individual salt gatherers, rather than fostering division, actively encourages continuous innovation and a relentless pursuit of quality improvement. Simultaneously, it necessitates the cultivation of cooperative relationships, which are vital for the collective sharing of invaluable knowledge and essential resources. While neighboring gatherers might indeed vie for the most discerning customers and strive to secure the highest possible prices for their superior product, they also engage in a synergistic exchange of critical information regarding impending weather patterns, prevailing market conditions, and recent technical advancements that ultimately benefit every participant in the industry. During unforeseen emergencies, such as devastating major storms or critical equipment malfunctions, these erstwhile competitors transform into indispensable collaborators, generously lending specialized tools, sharing precious workspace, or providing temporary labor to mutually assist each other in maintaining vital production levels. The social standing of salt gatherers within ancient society accurately mirrors the profound importance of their product, while simultaneously acknowledging the inherent physical demands and the ever-present economic uncertainties associated with their arduous work. They are universally respected as highly skilled craftsmen, individuals who provide indispensable services to the community. However, despite their vital contributions, they are not typically positioned among the wealthiest or most politically influential members of society. Their primary social connections are predominantly forged with other individuals intrinsically involved in the vast ecosystem of food production and preservation. Diligent farmers, skilled bakers, astute merchants, and discerning householders, all of whom possess a profound, practical understanding of the critical importance of having consistent and reliable access to high-quality salt. As the afternoon progresses and the sun ascends to its zenith, casting its most intense rays, Theodorus meticulously concludes his morning rounds. He then embarks upon the careful and deliberate process of transporting the freshly harvested salt to designated storage areas, where it will continue its crucial drying phase before being meticulously packaged for eventual sale. The warm, crystalline particles sparkle resplendently, like an innumerable scattering of tiny diamonds under the brilliant sunlight. Each individual crystal represents countless hours of patient, painstaking work and an unwavering, meticulous attention to the subtle yet powerful natural processes that have operated with immutable consistency for countless generations. His steady, methodical approach to this venerable ancient craft not only plays a pivotal role in preserving the essential foods that sustain his entire community, but also serves as a living conduit, meticulously maintaining the profound traditions that inextricably link him to the countless generations of dedicated salt gatherers who have toiled in these very same coastal waters before him. Worked these same coastal waters, drawing sustenance from the restless tides. Yet, what other fundamental vocations were instrumental in enabling the ancient Hellenes to transmute raw natural assets into the very substances that underpinned a sophisticated way of life, much like the diligent salt gatherers such as Theodoras, who harmonized their labors with the ebb and flow of the sea and its littoral margins. The dedicated shepherds of Arcadia orchestrated their existence to the more deliberate, profound cadences of the rugged mountains and their verdant pastures. Aristomos, a seasoned guardian of his flock, meticulously guides his charges along venerable pathways that meander through ancient oak woodlands and traverse expansive meadows carpeted with a vibrant tapestry of wildflowers, faithfully adhering to routes that have been trodden by innumerable generations of pastoralists before his time. The majestic Arcadian mountains ascend in graceful, undulating contours towards the heavens, their slopes abundantly clad with a particular variety of grasses and aromatic herbs, renowned for yielding the sweetest, most exquisite milk and the superlative wool found anywhere within the Hellenic lands. The arduous practice of shepherding amidst these formidable mountains demands an exceptionally profound comprehension of the terrain, extending far beyond a mere awareness of where forage might be found. Aristomos possesses an uncanny ability to decipher the atmospheric conditions, interpreting the subtle manner in which ethereal clouds coalesce around specific peaks to foretell impending weather changes. He can accurately anticipate the availability of vital water sources by discerning the nuanced coloration of vegetation in distant valleys, and he is adept at identifying secure havens that will offer his cherished flock sanctuary from abrupt meteorological disturbances or the lurking peril of predatory beasts. This invaluable repository of knowledge has been meticulously transmitted through the lineage of his family for countless generations, honed and refined by an unbroken continuum of practical experience and astute observation. It has crystallized into an exhaustive understanding of how to cooperatively engage with natural ecosystems, rather than attempting to dominate or counteract them. The sheep themselves are not the conventionally fluffy, submissive creatures often depicted in modern agricultural settings, but rather resilient, remarkably intelligent animals impeccably adapted to the rigors of mountain existence. They have cultivated an extraordinary capacity to respond to Aristomos' nuanced signals, a distinctive, sharp whistle that unequivocally commands an ascent uphill, a precise hand gesture that conveys the imperative to maintain cohesion as a group, or a subtle alteration in his gait that serves as an early warning of potential peril lurking ahead. The profound bond between the shepherd and his flock is fundamentally predicated upon a mutual comprehension and an unwavering trust, meticulously forged over years of shared trials and triumphs within formidable environments where collective cooperation is absolutely indispensable for survival. Each turn of the annual cycle ushers in a distinct array of trials and propitious moments, necessitating both meticulous foresight and highly adaptable responses. The advent of spring signifies the crucial task of guiding the flock towards higher, rejuvenating pastures as the winter snows recede and tender new grasses begin their nascent growth. Simultaneously, however, It entails the formidable challenge of navigating treacherous, muddy pathways, fording swollen, rushing streams, and meticulously tending to the lambing season, a period when ewes demand heightened vigilance, specialized care, and robust protection for their vulnerable offspring. Summer, while bestowing the most luxuriant grazing opportunities, regrettably also introduces the palpable specter of arid drought, intensely scorching temperatures, and the increased activity of predators, whose hunting instincts are sharpened by the abundance of available prey. Autumn, in its turn, necessitates a meticulous preparation for the impending winter months, focusing on bolstering the flock's physical condition while systematically migrating them to lower-lying, more sheltered grazing areas that offer respite from the encroaching cold. The quotidian rhythm of shepherding unfolds in patterns that are simultaneously inherently predictable in their fundamental structure, and yet ceaselessly variable in their minute manifestations. The nascent hours of the morning are dedicated to an exhaustive inspection of each individual animal for any indications of malady or injury, a precise census of the entire flock to ensure that no member has strayed during the nocturnal hours, and a critical assessment of prevailing weather conditions to meticulously plan the day's migratory movements. The flock progresses deliberately through the expansive landscape, punctuated by frequent pauses for grazing, vital hydration, and restorative rest. The afternoon hours invariably usher in the most intense temperatures, prompting the sheep to instinctively seek out the cooling shade, a quiet interlude that Aristomos judiciously utilizes for essential ancillary tasks, such as the meticulous repair of worn equipment, the methodical verification of cached supplies, or the proactive reconnaissance of potential routes for the subsequent day's peregrination. Navigating the intricate and often perilous mountain terrain mandates a unique blend of practical, hard-won knowledge interwoven with an almost innate, intuitive grasp of animal behavior and the overarching intricacies of natural systems. Aristomos possesses an extraordinary capacity to interpret the landscape as if it were a living, breathing topographical chart, meticulously noting prominent landmarks, discerning subtle seasonal transitions, and recognizing minute, almost imperceptible signs that unerringly indicate the most advantageous routes for a myriad of prevailing conditions. He possesses an intimate understanding of precisely which pathways become utterly impassable after torrential downpours, which specific areas are inherently susceptible to perilous rockslides, and which particular meadows consistently offer the most superior grazing at varying junctures throughout the year. This dynamic, continuously evolving mental cartography is perpetually updated and refined based on fresh observations and the ceaselessly shifting environmental circumstances. The specialized implements and accoutrements utilized in the demanding pursuit of mountain shepherding are scrupulously selected for their inherent robustness, multifaceted utility, and ease of transport. Aristomos invariably carries a stout staff, a versatile tool that fulfills a multitude of critical functions. It serves as an indispensable aid for traversing rugged terrain, an effective instrument for gently guiding his sheep, a formidable defensive weapon for warding off predatory threats, and even a practical measuring device for accurately gauging the depth of flowing streams or accumulated snowdrifts. His protective cloak, meticulously woven from the very wool of his own flock, offers exceptional warmth, even when saturated, and provides an invaluable shield against biting winds and the scorching intensity of the sun. Water receptacles, sustenance provisions, and essential repair materials are all chosen with an uncompromising emphasis on their optimal weight-to-utility ratio and their proven capacity to withstand the rigors of rough handling in the most challenging and unforgiving environments. The intricate art of predator management necessitates an unceasing state of vigilance and the deployment of a diverse array of sophisticated strategies that meticulously balance the paramount objective of safeguarding the flock with a profound, ingrained respect for the delicate equilibrium of the natural ecosystem. Formidable apex predators such as wolves, bears, and larger felids all present significant, life-threatening dangers, yet even smaller, more ubiquitous predators like foxes can pose a considerable threat, particularly to vulnerable young lambs or infirm animals. Aristomos judiciously employs specially trained guard dogs, bred and conditioned explicitly for the exacting demands of mountain work. However, he also ingeniously deploys a repertoire of complementary techniques, including the strategic positioning of the flock in naturally defensible locations, the careful timing of their movements through inherently vulnerable areas, and the innovative creation of temporary protective barriers utilizing naturally occurring topographical features or readily portable materials. The intricate social dimensions inherent in the practice of shepherding encompass the vital imperative of cultivating and preserving robust connections with fellow herders, surrounding local communities, and the expansive, interconnected network of individuals involved in the production and distribution of wool and dairy commodities. Shepherds routinely exchange invaluable intelligence regarding grazing conditions, prevailing weather patterns, recent predator activity, and fluctuating market prices through informal yet highly effective networks that seamlessly span the entire geographical region. They meticulously coordinate their migratory movements to preclude the detrimental overgrazing of particular areas and consistently provide reciprocal assistance and support during unforeseen emergencies or exceptionally challenging environmental conditions. These vital social bonds and cooperative relationships are meticulously sustained through regular convocations at time-honored traditional gatherings places, the festive celebration of seasonal observances, and the deeply ingrained tradition of hospitality that shepherds generously extend to wayfarers traversing remote and isolated regions. The intricate discipline of breeding management demands far-sighted, long-term strategic planning and the meticulous maintenance of detailed genealogical records, all designed to ensure the enduring health, genetic robustness, and sustained productivity of the flock across successive generations. Aristomos assiduously tracks specific bloodlines, rigorously monitors breeding success rates, and makes judicious decisions regarding which animals to retain for future breeding, which to offer for sale, and which to judiciously exchange with other herders to introduce fresh genetic material. These critical decisions are invariably predicated upon a complex interplay of factors such as the inherent quality of the wool, the yield of milk production, the animal's natural resistance to disease, and their intrinsic adaptability to the demanding conditions of the mountain environment, qualities that may not become fully apparent until the animals attain full maturity. Seasonal festivals and deeply rooted religious observances serve as invaluable opportunities for shepherds to convene, to freely exchange crucial information, and to perpetuate cultural traditions that inextricably link them to their profound historical and spiritual heritage. The ancient veneration of Pan, the revered goat-footed deity associated with shepherds and the untamed wilderness, incorporates sacred rituals that eloquently acknowledge the fundamental dependence of human communities upon the intricate systems of the natural world and the solemn responsibility that accompanies the stewardship of domesticated animals within wild and untamed environments. These profound observances serve to powerfully reinforce the ethical imperatives of shepherding and provide essential spiritual sustenance for navigating the inherent isolation and the formidable challenges intrinsic to mountain life. The intricate economic facets of shepherding involve a multiplicity of distinct income streams, each demanding specialized forms of knowledge and a keen awareness of prevailing market dynamics. Revenue derived from wool sales is contingent upon the fiber's intrinsic quality, the opportune timing of its harvest, and the cultivation of reliable relationships with processors who skillfully transform raw fleece into a diverse array of finished products. Dairy commodities, such as artisan cheeses and fresh milk, necessitate a comprehensive understanding of effective food preservation techniques, the logistical complexities of transportation, and the nuanced preferences of discerning consumers. The sale of live animals involves a meticulous evaluation of breeding stock, an informed assessment of meat quality, and a shrewd understanding of market demand, which itself fluctuates both seasonally and regionally. Consequently, truly successful shepherds must possess a holistic understanding of all these diverse markets and adeptly tailor their management practices to align with these multifaceted economic realities. Exceptional weather monitoring and responsive capabilities constitute indispensable skills that can fundamentally dictate the demarcation between prosperity and utter catastrophe. In the demanding realm of mountain shepherding, Aristomos has assiduously cultivated the ability to interpret subtle, almost imperceptible indicators that presage impending shifts in meteorological conditions. The nuanced behavioral patterns of indigenous wild animals, the distinctive appearance of particular cloud formations, and the precise direction and intensity of winds that bear moisture from distant seas. This profound, empirically derived knowledge empowers him to proactively guide his flock to safety well in advance of approaching storms, to locate secure refuge during periods of extreme weather, and to judiciously capitalize on favorable conditions for crucial activities such as shearing or breeding. The comprehensive tutelage of nascent shepherds transcends the mere impartation of technical proficiencies. It fundamentally involves the meticulous inculcation of the specific attitudes and character traits that are absolutely indispensable for thriving in the challenging mountain environment. Virtues such as unwavering patience, robust self-reliance, meticulous observation, and a profound respect for natural systems must all be painstakingly cultivated through immersive experience and dedicated mentorship. Physical prowess, unyielding mental fortitude, and the critical capacity to render sound judgments under intense pressure are equally paramount attributes. Master shepherds of Aristomos' caliber approach this generational responsibility with utmost solemnity, fully cognizant that the enduring traditions and invaluable knowledge they transmit will ultimately determine the prosperity and success of all subsequent generations. The judicious conservation and sustainable utilization of mountain pastures necessitate a deep comprehension of ecological principles that contemporary environmentalists are only now beginning to fully appreciate. Through centuries of accumulated practical experience, shepherds have acquired an unparalleled understanding of how to effectively manage grazing pressure, prevent deleterious soil erosion, diligently maintain indigenous plant diversity, and harmoniously collaborate with natural successional processes to ensure the sustained productivity of pastures across countless generations. Their time-honored practices encompass controlled burning, the strategic and precise timing of grazing cycles, and the diligent protection of ecologically sensitive areas during vulnerable periods such as prolonged drought or extreme meteorological events. The philosophical dimensions of shepherding extend beyond mere practicalities, encompassing a deep contemplation of humanity's intricate relationship with the natural world, the profound meaning of stewardship, and the ethical principles that ought to govern human interaction with all other living beings. The profound solitude and unspoiled grandeur of mountainous regions afford unparalleled opportunities for profound introspection, a rarity in more densely populated environs. Consequently, many who embrace this demanding way of life cultivate an abiding appreciation for the intricate complexity and inherent interdependence of natural ecosystems, coupled with a humbling awareness of humanity's modest position within the vast, interwoven tapestry of existence. As dusk descends, and Aristomos carefully guides his flock towards a secluded, verdant meadow where they will pass the night, he experiences a deep sense of accomplishment, stemming from another day of successful guardianship within one of the planet's most breathtaking yet formidable environments. The sheep, in turn, settle into their familiar evening rhythms of grazing, quiet social interaction, and a gradual preparation for rest. Concurrently, their vigilant shepherd meticulously sets up his unpretentious camp, making ready for a night of watchful slumber beneath a sky where the stars gleam with exceptional brilliance in the crisp, pellucid mountain air. His unwavering, expert attention to these animals not only contributes to the sustenance of the communities nestled in the valleys below, but also diligently upholds ancient traditions, forging a direct connection to countless generations of pastoralists who discovered profound meaning and purpose in this arduous yet immensely gratifying way of life. The gentle chorus of settling sheep, the distant calls of nocturnal birds, and the soft rustle of wind through the trees coalesce into a timeless lullaby, a melody that has resonated through these venerable peaks for thousands of years, carrying with it the deep peace and perennial rhythms that emerge from living in profound harmony with the natural world. The art of paraphrase, a meticulous endeavor designed to recast original thoughts into fresh linguistic forms without altering their intrinsic meaning, fundamentally relies upon the presence of a complete and coherent textual corpus. This process typically involves a careful dissection of the source's thematic elements, its structural architecture, and its nuanced vocabulary, subsequently rebuilding these components with diverse grammatical constructions and an enriched lexicon. However, when presented with an input as remarkably concise and fragmented as RLD, the very essence of this undertaking becomes untenable. A single, truncated syllable, devoid of context or a discernible grammatical role, offers no substantive ideas to expand upon, no intricate structures to maintain, and no narrative thread to follow. Consequently, the rigorous requirements for preserving the original's length, adding illustrative details, or applying sophisticated linguistic embellishments cannot be met, as there is simply no original content from which to derive such elements. The objective of maintaining factual and terminological consistency alongside a specific journalistic narrative tone also presupposes a discernible factual base or a story to recount. Without a complete thought or a substantial piece of information, the foundational elements required for a successful and instruction-compliant paraphrase are, regrettably, absent.